Okay, I'd like to call the Camarillo Sanitary District meeting to order, please, and let the record reflect that all the directors are present. Flag salute. Mrs. McDonald, could you lead us tonight, please?
Join us in the flag salute. Right hand over your heart, ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, amendments to this agenda?
There are no amendments.
Public comments for the Cam San District? Public comments? Move down to the consent calendar?
Hang on. No,
I have one
Yes.
on the consent.
Mr. Little?
This is for a bid for rental of equipment. Have we investigated whether we needed to purchase this on save money over the long term?
Mr. Fox, yeah.
At this time, the feeling is it's better to rent the equipment. It's about 2 to 3 times more expensive to buy a new pump, and it would take 10 or 8 months to have it delivered, at least by renting or fix. I'm sorry, which item are we on?
I'm on the
belt press.
The belt press. I'm sorry. Yeah, at this point, it's very expensive to put in the kind of equipment it would take to, on a permanent basis, reduce the water amount of water in our sludge. As we move forward with 2 capital projects in the future, one is to consider a levee system, and another is to consider a reservoir. At that time, we can look at also seeing if there's a way to incorporate into the design capital construction at that time.
Thank you.
Move the approval of the consent calendar.
The motion is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please vote. That passes unanimously. Comments from staff? Any comments from staff?
I don't have any, Tom. Do you have any?
Let's see, comments from board members? Any comments from the board members? Okay, with that, we're adjourned.
We'll call the city council to order. Let the record show that all members of the council are present. Is there any, any amendments to this agenda?
No amendments.
We do have a presentation. We have a proclamation designating Camarillo as a Purple Heart City. I'm going to go over to the presentation area, and I'll ask Mr. Hugh Clayball to come forward. We received a request a few weeks ago from through Mr. Clayball to designate Camarillo as a Purple Heart City. As we all know, the Purple Heart is the first service award and it was specifically awarded to veteran or to any member of the armed forces wounded or killed in combat. And our designation as a Purple Heart City will signify our response to the call of duty by recognizing and honoring those brave patriots who wear the Purple Heart Medal. Camarillo has a large population, as we all know, of highly decorated military members, both active and retired, as well as a number of Purple Heart recipients living in our community. So it's fitting and proper we do this. And never forget those who have given their lives and shed their blood in defense of this great nation. And I'm going to proclaim with my fellow councilmen that the city of Camarillo is a Purple Heart City in honor of the service and sacrifice of our nation's men and women in uniform, wounded or killed by the enemy while serving to protect our freedoms we enjoy as Americans. So, Mr. Clayball, would you like to add a little bit more to that?
Yes, I would. I would like to thank you, Mayor Little, and the City Council and the City of Camarillo for making this a Purple Heart City. It It's very gratifying to the people that have been wounded, to the soldiers that have been wounded, and all veterans. Make sure we never forget. Thank you.
Well, it seems like every day we read stories of our men and women in harm's way in various parts of the world, and it's certainly befitting that we do acknowledge that these people do sacrifice a great deal to keep us safe. So, on behalf of the City of Camarillo, I want to give you that proclamation and thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, these are nice.
Thank you, Bill.
Jan, did you ever, I'm going to ask that question. We don't have a thing pending over there.
Okay. Back to our agenda.
Pending general plan amendments. I'm going to question that.
We have the consent calendar.
Move the approval.
Second.
Bill, can I ask a
Yes.
real quick question on one, if you wouldn't mind?
I've got one to ask.
It's just a question.
Yeah.
I think it's a question for Jeffrey on item N, painting with a twist. First, I'm not familiar with what type of a business that is. And second, my understanding is because it's an old town, it'll require a conditional use permit, and they have not applied for one of those. Is that right?
That's correct.
Is that you, Joe? Okay.
Yes, it is.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
It's actually a combination of painting with opportunity for wine tasting.
I see.
And so they're wine tastings paired with painting classes. And as a result of the service and consumption of alcohol, it needs a conditional use permit. And so we're working with them on that application as we speak.
Joe, do you know where on the boulevard that's located, perhaps?
It's in the former We Buy Gold building.
Which one?
Next to El Rey Cantina.
Oh, okay. Okay, right there. Okay.
Yes, it was previously occupied by We Buy Gold.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Now, maybe I said that too fast.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you, Your Honor.
That was one I was going to ask too,
That was
by the
too.
way. Where is that?
Could I just follow up on that one? So just to make sure I understand, so they're offering painting classes? That's the primary?
Yes.
It's the latest thing.
So maybe I could paint if I had wine with it? Is that what it is?
Yes, that's the assumption.
I'm pretty sure you could.
Everybody does the same painting. They're simple.
Okay.
Well, we'll have to go visit this, won't we?
Yes, Mike.
I'd like to look at item Q.
Q and General.
You have a question?
You have a
Just a couple
question?
questions, all I have.
Okay,
Item Q,
go
page
ahead.
11. And I see it says pending general plan amendments. And it shows the Caneo Creek project pending.
Yes. Hello, I'm Tim Moran with the Planning Department. I worked on this report. This report goes right up until January 2015. So that was still, yeah.
It's next, never mind. You answered the question.
Okay. I do have one question myself. It's on item P. Apparently, this is a firm that we've used for a number of years for professional services, for comprehensive housing service, for rehabilitation.
Yes, Mayor. Good evening. Michael Smith. I'm with the Planning Department. We had a current contract, a previous contract from 1999, and there was no dollar amount on it. HUD did a monitoring of us in 2013, and they asked us to do an RFP because it was 15 years old. So we sent out an RFP, and we put a dollar amount on this contract of $15,000 because that was adequate at the time. But we're finding out now as we go along with the success of the project, with putting some advertisement in City Scene, with getting getting some program income, that money's not going to be adequate. And if we don't increase the monies, then the program's going to have to stop at this point until next fiscal year. And we have 5 loans pending and 6 applications that we want to process.
Well, I guess my question is, we're basically now doubling the amount that the contract was, and seems to me we ought to at least maybe test the waters on some bids. If not this year, then the next time around.
I put together a PowerPoint, but actually, historically, the numbers have been about $25,000 a year. That $15,000 was just too low when we did it. Again, it was new staff at the time, and just we didn't have a previous number in the 1999 contract, so that $15,000 was just artificially low. I did a historical documentation of the last 5 years, and it's been an average $25,000 a year. So even that $15,000 was just way too low to begin with.
And I assume these people are doing a good job for us.
The program's really working, and this will give us the opportunity to do 11 more applications this year.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Not? Please vote. Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to the City Council, the Camarillo Ranch Foundation Annual Report. Is there someone here to present that report? Please come forward to the microphone.
Good evening. My name is Karen Pro, and I'm the current president of the Camarillo Ranch Foundation, and I am here to present the annual report of the ranch to the city. I'd first like to thank the city of Camarillo for having the foresight to save Adolfo Camarillo's Victorian ranch house, not only for the citizens of Camarillo, but for Ventura County and beyond. The CRF is committed to preserving and maintaining this historical treasure. Regarding our financial picture, the board is well aware that last year was difficult financially. Our ranch's private events fell by almost 25% during the last fiscal year. Our primary sources of income have historically been seasonal, and the current board and staff are addressing ideas which will hopefully improve that seasonality. The Finance Committee, under the leadership of our treasurer, Marty Daly, is leading our current budget process. The CRF has been subject to an annual audit by an outside independent firm provided by the city since at least 2007, and there has never been any irregularities found. However, the entire board is aware of the importance of solving this recent budgetary issue. The Finance Committee is putting some policies and procedures in effect to ensure that we are making all adjustments as the year progresses, which includes new monthly cash flow projections in the new budget for the fiscal year 7/15 to 6/16, which we think will help in our cash control. The board is working with staff and has already reduced spending in several areas. Staff has also organized 3 new events in the last year. The Bridal Showcase in February netted almost $20,000 and garnered 7 signed wedding contracts. As you know, Adolfo loved to party, and our Throwback Thursday events held on the 4th Thursday of the month from 5 to 9 are a party he would have enjoyed. New people are coming to the ranch who have never been because they're following their favorite food truck. Children are playing on the grass or in the barn watching a movie. It has not only given us new people at the ranch, but has provided a steady revenue stream. And lastly, the 805 event provided us with several $1,000s to our new Send a Child to the Ranch program, as well as marketing perks. The ranch has had school tour programs for years, but it was almost exclusively for PVSD children. The board wanted to expand the program to students in the entire county. So using money from the 805 event, as well as some funds from previous galas, we developed a bus grant program that began last October. Check our website for the criteria and other information about this. Instead of 1 day a week, we now give school tours 2 days a week. And we have given over 10 grants of $350 each to various schools throughout the county. This means that over 600 children have come to the ranch who never would have been able to in the past. We anticipate a few more before the end of the school year. Thanks to a generous grant from the Meadowlark Service League, you each have a copy of this that Bill's going to bring back to us next week at our meeting. This is given to every single child who goes to the ranch and takes a tour. It's a beautiful booklet with some history in it, as well as some activities for the children to take back home and to share with their parents. I thank you for your time. And if you aren't a member of the ranch, those of you here or anywhere in listening distance, I urge you to call the office and become a member. You can then join us on June 7th at the ranch for our thank you to all of our many friends of the ranch. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karen. Karen, there may be some questions. Anyone have any questions? Yes, Kevin.
Yeah. Thanks, Karen. It's a good report. I look here and I see that the cash flow projections on a monthly basis, which I think will be a real beneficial situation to do.
Yes.
Just a little bit of the feedback that I've been getting is that to rent the ranch house out was somewhat on the pricey side. Now, I have not gone around and done a comparison. It's just some of the feedback that I've got. I'm sure you folks maybe have heard some of that too, and it will be addressed at some point if it's not already been addressed. But that's kind of some of the feedback that I've got.
It has been, and the events director who is in charge of this has offered at various times and at this bridal event discounts for certain periods, and it has been a big boon as far as seeing these discounts for a period of time. Around Valentine's Day, they had one 10% discount, that sort of thing. But, you know, it's more complicated than just saying we're pricey or whatever. We include a lot of things in our price that other event places don't. You pay the price for the location, and then all of these other things are not included. So it's not as simple as just what our price is for our particular site. But we are doing, you are absolutely right, we are doing discounts and doing reaching out. The bridal fair's purpose was for that exact thing.
Okay, good. Yeah, I just thought I'd share what, you know.
We are aware of it. Thank you.
As a business owner, you know, you're always kind of going back and forth with this stuff, so it's not uncommon. So,
True.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Raven?
I just want to, two things. First of all, I think that the board is doing an excellent job, and thank you all for it. And the board for years has kept the house, improved the house, done exactly what our contract has with them has asked them to do. And I wanted to say thank you. The other thing is, it may be pricey, but a lot of other places are pricey as well, and you're booked up.
That's true. Thank you.
Yes, Mr.
You know, we get letters and things, maybe someone complaining about certain things, but to let the public know, we have a person that is in charge of our finance who's a banker in the back, and he's one of the better ones. And if anyone's going to keep the thing in order, that man does back there. And so he'll talk about things I'm not sure what he's talking about. But anyway, we've got a great check. I mean, what do you call it? Safety net there. Make sure we have qualified people who are checking out those items. I know he's new at it, but he's doing a great job, the reports he's been giving us now. I have one more question because it's been asked of me, and I don't know. The Hartman Ranch at the bottom of the grade, did they buy that from Don Adolfo Camarillo?
You've got to be kidding. You think I know the answer to that? I never even heard of the Hartman Ranch.
Well, the Hartman Ranch used to be part of his ranch. It was huge. But someone said it is either given to them or they bought it. And I don't know that question. I know a lot of them, but that one I didn't know.
Well, I can tell you the person to ask might be Don Mag. He's a docent, and he's now on the board, and he loves the history, and he's done a lot of research on the Camarillo Ranch. And so the next time you see Don out at the ranch, ask him, because my guess is he knows.
Either here, Jerry Olson, I pick on him too.
That's true.
Or maybe another docent named Donna Morgan.
Yeah, perhaps.
That's true.
I asked her that question, Donna, because she knows more than I do, knowing that book. But also either he or maybe Stan. Stan might know it too, I'm not sure. Just a curious question I got, and I didn't know how to answer it.
I'll try and find out for you, Mike.
Okay.
Jan, did you have a question?
I do, and it's probably for Mr. Campbell. We have been getting some letters regarding the accounting, and I'm not talking about cash flow or anything like that, but it's just the way they're accounting for some of their income and expenses. I know now that they have our auditors serving as auditors and have, as you say, have given you a clean bill of health as far as the audit goes. But I do notice when it caused me to sit and look at it, and there are some items when you look at their P&L and you look at the balance sheet that perhaps you could give them a little guidance on to help them make sure that they are indeed small things that would never come up in the audit, but just little fine-tuning that might make this just a little better. If you could see my paper, I've kind of got blue lines all over it. So.
Well, when you see next year's budget, you will see some of those things have been. Marty is working on that right now. Next year's budget will reflect, I think, some of those, what your questions are, I think they will be answered. I'm not sure, but I do know he's working on that.
And it's not just, the budget's one thing, but now it's,
Sure.
once it happens, it's getting it into your accounting records. And I think
Correct.
that might be where the little fine tuning needs to take place.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
I got one question. You're in the process of searching for an executive director. Could you let us know what your timetable is and what your plans are there?
Well, the task force is at work, and they've just now just sent out in the last few days kind of a timeline and a job description and kind of how they are looking at putting things together. But it's just a first draft, and the executive committee is going to be looking at it this week. I think that I don't think there's a timeline, definitely. We definitely have things in place right now that are working smoothly, and so we want to, it's not that we want to go too slowly, but we also don't want to go too fast, because we feel like this is an opportunity to find someone that we would like to think in terms of as has a vision of the next 5 years, as opposed to just kind of an immediate thing.
And business-oriented.
Pardon?
And business-oriented.
Okay, any other questions of Karen Pro?
I'll move to receive and file the annual report.
Second.
Moved and seconded, we receive and file the report. Any discussion? If not, please vote. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We now move to Groundwater Sustainability Agency formation for the Santa Rosa Valley Groundwater Basin. Tom?
Yeah, Your Honor. Before I get into discussing a recommendation and our involvement, I need to give a little background to frame up the issue, and I'll try and do this without drowning us in alphabet soup, because the issues involve a lot of acronyms, and I've tried to distill it down to maybe just some of the key points. To start with, last year, 2014, the state adopted the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, SGMA, sometimes referred to as SGMA. And that is an act that basically identified a high and medium impact basins around the state that needed to be managed better. And to do that, the act proposed to create what are referred to as groundwater sustainability agencies, that through the presentation I'll refer to as GSAs. Those agencies would be put in place similar to our groundwater management agency, the Fox Canyon Groundwater Management Agency that we're a part of, to manage or provide governance over the various basins. CAMROSA approached us, I think, at our last meeting, requested that we help take a position to try and minimize an impact to their governance of a basin that's completely within the CAMROSA service area. That's the Santa Rosa Valley Groundwater Basin. CAMROSA submitted a notification to the Department of Water Resources, DWR, letting them know that they would propose to be the GSA for that groundwater basin. What happened is when that notification went in, there's basically a posting that the DWR places out for the public to review that says that if nobody has any interest in also being a GSA, then after 90 days, the original party that provided the notice becomes an exclusive GSA. So CAMROSA had submitted their notification. However, the county is considering, or their Board of Supervisors will be considering an item that was originally proposed to be on their agenda yesterday. At our request, they postponed it until May 5th so that you would have time to hear this item, and if you wanted to provide input, have time to do that for the May 5th Board of Supervisors meeting. The county, going back to the legislation, it was identified that various criteria that agencies, if they met that criteria, they were qualified and could submit notifications to be a GSA. And if for a particular basin no agency came forward, then by default it would fall upon the county to become the GSA in whatever county in the state that might happen. So unless the county would then make a deliberate move to not want to be the GSA, it would become their responsibility. So the county of Ventura feels that because there's about 170, or roughly a large number of water agencies throughout the county and different basins, and there are interaction between the basins, that the county needs to take a strategic look at should they serve as the GSA for some of these basins. They haven't made a decision. They just know that there'll probably be some more legislation coming out this year. There'll be some guidelines coming out this year, and as that information comes out, they're going to evaluate whether it makes sense to take a strategic approach to determining how many and what type of GSA governance should occur throughout the county. They're not prepared to do that yet. However, because Camarosa, being a small agency, they move pretty quickly and they're pretty efficient. They've already taken the step to become a GSA. The county has a 90-day clock to be able to submit, which it's a June 2nd deadline, to be able to at least submit a notification the county themselves to become a potential agency to also be a GSA, if nothing else, to then be involved in a dialogue to cause some cooperation between whoever submits to be the GSA, which in this case would be Camarosa and the county, to have some cooperation to figure out how to structure the governance of the basin in Santa Rosa Valley. Now, Camarosa came to us and raised the concern, and it's a good concern. They're an efficient agency. The basin is completely within their service area, and creating another layer of government or governance can become disruptive or slow up a process. And I can tell you more than probably anybody here, with all the agencies I have to deal with and how the layers of extra work are created, it can be cumbersome. And so Camarosa has a valid point. However, the county at this point is not, we met with representatives of both Camarosa and the county together, and I can say, fortunately, they were very professional and cordial and are working with us to help us understand the issue. The county basically laid out that because they need more time to really take a strategic look at how they think they should be involved throughout the county, and to buy that time they need to submit their notification. And it is not their intent to create an agency that would have a independent board that the Camarosa wouldn't be a part of, and independent staff that would be governing the work of Camarosa. That is not the intent. Instead, it would be to have at least a seat at the table, so that there is some oversight over the basin, so that if there are any regional issues, and there are regional issues that affect our various basins from time to time, that at least the county has some input and some control in providing input to the decision making. So with that said, while I think it makes sense for what Camarosa is requesting, that they would like to have control over their basin within their service area, the county also, I think, the staff is providing enough of a argument to the Board of Supervisors that makes sense as well, that they need time to really wait until the additional legislation comes out, the guidelines come out, to truly understand what the expectations are. I mean, the legislation gets adopted, but the expectations are somewhat, nebulous in the legislation until you get the guidelines and have that detail. You really don't have everything you need to work with to develop the governance. So what staff is city staff is recommending to you is that if the Board of Supervisors moves forward not to take an action to submit a notification, then the issue drops, and there's really nothing more we need to talk about. However, if the county takes action to submit a notification, what happens then is you have now two agencies that are both interested in being the GSA, and they'll have to work together cooperatively. However, because Camarosa serves the eastern third of the city, we have an interest in how that governance structure would come to be, and we want to see something. I think we share Camarosa's desire to see something that is as efficient as possible and has the least impact to their operations. But yet, if there is a way to have reasonable oversight, there might be something to consider there as well. And I think it would be important for the city to be at the table or to be involved with the discussions that will come later in the future to develop that governance structure. And so what we were recommending is that we send a letter to the Board of Supervisors before for their agenda item to request that if they do take action to submit their notification to be a GSA, that they also include in the action direction to staff to include the city in the process to develop the GSA governance. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? City staff?
I have one, Bill.
Okay.
Yeah, Tom, what's the time frame for this? Is the May 5th? Is that?
May 5th will be when the Board of Supervisors hear the item because, for example, let's say the board has questions and staff needs to bring it back. They'll have one more meeting. They can bring it back in May before the end of the month, and then June 2nd is their deadline to be able to submit to avoid Camarosa becoming an exclusive GSA.
June 2nd?
June 2nd is the deadline.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Jan.
Is there let's say 5 agencies submitted and requested to be a GSA, can that occur?
That could occur, yes.
So anybody who wants to be can be?
Not anybody. There is a list of criteria they have to meet, but it's pretty general. You have to either have basically water management responsibility or even land development authority to be involved. So most government or local agencies involved with water would qualify, and it even suggests that you could have multiple agencies under a JPA that would govern the basin. So it's really one of those areas that still hasn't been defined, and perhaps in the guidelines there will be more of it to provide guidance, but that in light, I guess in lieu of that, the expectation is that the agencies that are interested would get together and hopefully cooperatively arrive at a governance structure everybody can agree to.
Mike?
There's a couple things that might make my decision, and that one would be both agencies have to set up a board, okay? Both county and Camarosa. If that board included county member and a city member, or Camarosa member and a city member, I'd be more likely to look at those. If they're not, I think that would be a nixing point for that agency being what we endorse.
Yeah, again, what you're suggesting is very much in line with what we talked about when we met with the representatives from both agencies, is that if there was some kind of oversight board, it would be including representatives from a number of agencies, including the city.
Did you get a response from both agencies? I mean,
well, again, I'll just keep it really simple. Camarosa runs an efficient operation. And by the way, I need to clarify, the county's move to take this position is not in any way an indication of a concern over the way Camarosa manages their service area. It's a fact that they're looking at the county-wide strategically and ultimately will be developing a strategic approach, but they're not ready to do that yet, so they're just trying and I guess call a timeout in essence until they have more information. So it is not that they are expressing any concern about the way Camarosa manages, and we work closely with Camarosa and they do a good job. But there may be a need to have some kind of regional involvement or oversight, because basins do have, or sometimes decisions are regional decisions that can affect individual basins, and it's good to have that regional input, and that's really what they're looking to be a party to. On the other hand, Camarosa, they would prefer to continue to do business as they are, and it's a tough one. And I guess what I'm saying is to you, I'm not sure we're in a position that we could go and make a solid argument to the Board of Supervisors not to at least stop the clock and evaluate it. I think instead it would be better for us to take a position that we would like to be involved, and we could hopefully help guide to a solution that Camarosa has a minimal amount of impact to their operations, but that if there is some type of oversight that makes sense, that we can help develop that as well.
When we say that they have a little bit of, they built the first desalter we've got in the county. They were one of the first recycled waters that went out to farmland. The recycled water is using it inside the city now. I'd say they're more than just good. They're very good in comparison to the rest of this county.
I agree. They're excellent.
Well, we have Mr. Tony Strafford there who'd like to come and speak to us before we move forward.
I'm Tony Stafford, General Manager at Camarosa, and Mr. Fox did an excellent job of outlining exactly what happened. But our position hasn't changed. And it's not that we still want to be the GSA, the agency over that basin. The basin lies, 100% of it's within our boundaries, and we have an elected board that sets policy for the delivery of water and the management of our resources, whether that's managing existing resources or developing new. And we're not saying the county shouldn't be involved in some basins. They shouldn't be, and when I say involved, they shouldn't be the GSA in the Santa Rosa Basin. As I've stated before, is that we look for cooperation or collaboration with other agencies. That we even have those now with the city, with Cayugas, with surrounding agencies, and we still offer that. Our difference is in what a seat at the table means. A seat at the table for us means that we would have an advisory council, which several agencies use. The county even uses those. And it would be made up of the city, the county, Cayugas, environmental groups, local ag, local businesses, and that would be an advisory council. But once that another agency puts in to be the GSA, DWR is not going to make a decision on it should be Camarosa or it should be the county. They're going to push it back down and say develop something. Well, the county wants a voting seat at the table, and so that is another layer of government that we don't think is necessary. We're doing a good job in what we do. The GSA, or the management plan, offers us some tools to further and advance the Santa Rosa Basin. Santa Rosa Basin is not overdrafted now, meaning it's not overpumped. The reason it was listed as a medium priority basin is because of the quality of water. And as I've stated at other meetings, we've been working for years on developing ways to clean up that water. And one of them is the SMP is now going to come down the Santa Rosa Basin, and we're looking at another RO unit to not only offer recharge opportunities, but it'll offer opportunities to, as you recharge, you will clean it up, or you will recharge with better quality water. And so our position is still, we think we would like the support that Camarosa be the GSA in the Santa Rosa Basin.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions?
I do have a question.
Jan?
If I might, yeah.
Tony, please.
And I'm trying to think this through to come up with the question, because in my mind I'm wrestling with all the other activities, I'm going to call them, or services that we provide. And I'm going to go back to transit and look at how hard we fought to keep local control over our transit rather than letting it go on a regional basis. So I guess I'm looking for you to tell me why it would be so important that you have that direct control rather than having that regional voting rights to what happens within your basin. Let's take, for instance, if you were going to drill a new well. Are you in the process of a new well?
We are.
We are, okay. You are. So if that were to have occurred when you have outsiders voting on it, do you think that would affect your ability to deliver water, or
Well,
just give me a
could.
little more?
In drilling a well, the well we're actually drilling now, the permits, drilling wells, the permits are issued by the county, and that won't change.
Okay.
So specifically about drilling wells, even if it's in the Santa Rosa Basin, the county still issues those permits.
So that won't change.
That
What would
won't
change then if they were involved, do you think?
Well, they could actually, who knows how the governing body would be made up? If Camarosa is the governing body, it would be our board of directors. And that board of directors, their intention and what they're elected to do is govern and set policy for everything within our boundaries. That includes the basins, the delivery, and the development water. And we've been working for decades on doing just that, whether it's the desalter. 2011, we started talking to Cayugas Water District about the rerouting of a portion of the the SMP, which is the Salinity Management Pipeline, to come down Santa Rosa Road, just so we could clean up that basin and recharge that basin. So it's not like we're Johnny-come-lately to this. We've been doing it for decades, and so we think it's an unnecessary level of government. We're not saying the county shouldn't be involved in other basins. We're not saying they should be involved in other basins. That's another issue. We just don't think it's a necessary effort. You know, it's more staffing, it's more meetings they have to attend, and so we do think it would affect the way. You could have two different governing bodies then. You would have a GSA. You could have a GSA made up of, however it turns out, city, the county, Camarosa, and then you would still have the governing board of Camarosa, and so there could be a conflict of policies there.
Any other questions?
There's somebody from the county out here. Does he have anything to say, to add?
You haven't submitted a card. Would you like to say something? We need you. Only if you want to speak.
He can do it after, can't he?
Yeah. Yep. Oh, sure. After, yeah.
I'll fill out the card in a moment. My name is Tully Clifford. I'm with the Ventura County Public Works Agency. I'm the director of the Watershed Protection District, also responsible as part of the staff for the Fox Canyon Groundwater Management Agency. First thing, just want to clarify, a portion of this basin is also under the control of the Fox Canyon Groundwater Management Agency. So there will automatically need to be at least two different agencies involved in the management of this basin. The portion in Fox Canyon is considerably smaller, but there will be a couple of requirements. At this stage, the county is not entirely certain. We have not been given direction from the Board of Supervisors as to the role, and that's why we're suggesting to the county, to the board, that the county actually declare its intent to become the GSA, just to enable that conversation to take place. The thing about the legislation, the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act legislation, is that you can opt out of being a groundwater sustainability agency, but you cannot opt in. So if this 90 days expires and the county does not express an interest, that's it. They've lost the one shot. But if the county declares, goes through a process discussing it with all of the interested stakeholders and determines, oh, there's really not a role for the county then can opt out. And so that's why we're recommending to the board that they do opt in. And then they can look at all the options. And we fully acknowledge the fine work that Camarosa does.
Okay. Yes, Mike?
In view of the things that they have done and plan to do, and they've been on top of all the water situation in their area, how would another agency come in and make it any better?
I think what you'd be gaining at this time would be the regional perspective. I think what we don't know through the Act and through the management in the other basin is what's going to happen to all of the water sources. What will happen to the surface water sources out of Simi Valley? What will happen out of Moore Park? And so from a regional perspective, we as the county can bring that perspective and tie it back in with all of the basins. And so that we don't build a house of cards, we don't have dominoes that knock one over. Instead, we will have more of an integrated and regional approach, which I think will be effective. And so we, within the county, will manage our groundwater very effectively. 70% of our water use is groundwater, so it's incumbent upon us to make sure we manage it correctly.
Okay. Any other questions? My comment is that I think we've had pretty good management up till now, and I'm not sure whether the county would add anything to that, but assuming they do, I think it also behooves us to follow what the staff is recommending, which is to say, if you do this, we want we want to be at the table too. And so I think that's
That's a question to ask him, Your Honor. If you did set this up, what's your recommendation as far as having a board that does supervise that?
Oh, we don't, at this stage, we don't have any of those details. We haven't even
made
looked
that
at governance.
decision
All
yet.
we're doing is going to the Board of Supervisors, suggesting that they declare their intent. And then we would have to frame that. It would be a process. We would have to get together with the stakeholders. We, right now, do not have an intent on how it would operate at all.
Okay, thank you very much.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to direct staff to write a letter requesting that the County Board of Supervisors include the City of Camarillo in developing a GSA governance formats for the Santa Rosa Valley groundwater basin.
Is there a second?
I'll second that. I have a comment, though.
Well, I do too, but go ahead.
Last Friday, I attended the AWA's Water Symposium, and there were a lot of really good speakers. And I'm using this as an explanation for why I seconded it and why I'm saying what I'm saying. But one of the speakers, his name was David Sunding, and he coincidentally grew up in Camarillo, but it doesn't have anything to do with his comments. He is a professor of agriculture and resources economics at UC Berkeley. And all of the speakers on the panel pretty much said the same thing in their own way, but I think that Dr. Sunding said it best. And so I'm going to quote, because I wrote down as he was speaking. He said, "We're already seeing some small water districts," and he was speaking statewide, "we're already seeing some small water districts planting their flags in the ground to be their own groundwater sustainability agencies." And after that, he strongly encouraged them not to do that, but rather to work together, join with other nearby districts, and collaborate. By not collaborating and by planting their flags in the ground, he said, they are immediately creating an adversarial relationship. He and other very well-versed speakers in water agreed that the greater the scale of the GSAs, the better, meaning that the larger the area, the better, and to absolutely not split out subbasins. They also urged us all to not be fixated on boundaries, but rather to be fixated on cooperative relationships to manage and regulate the basins. They agreed that there are a lot of reasons to not have small local GSAs, including the financial reasons of having to have fund all of the studies and everything that have to be done. But if there is one, to make mighty sure that there's absolutely no conductivity with other basins. Excuse me, with other basins that are nearby. So anyway, I just thought that was interesting in light of what we were talking about.
Well, my concern is that this may be a first step towards regionalizing the groundwater agencies or the groundwater of an area, and that bothers me. I mean, we're dealing with a drought, and I understand that it may call for changes, but I don't see the real need to get the county into it when we have some really good, like Camarosa, everyone says, and I, being a customer of Camarosa, I agree. It's a fine water district. Anyway, we have a motion. Is there any further discussion?
Could I ask one question of staff? And it's something that I didn't know. The last speaker made mention that Fox Canyon had sudden governance over this basin. Can you explain that piece to me? Because I did not know that.
There's a portion of the Fox Canyon groundwater management boundaries that extend beyond Cayugas Creek into the eastern part of our city, far enough that it just touches the western part of the Santa Rosa Basin. So there is a western portion of the basin that Fox Canyon already covers. But as was stated, it's a small fraction of the overall basin.
And okay, so
In other words, that part of their basin overlies the Fox Canyon.
yeah, that's what I'm trying to reconcile. And so in some ways, there's already shared responsibility over that?
No, it's not shared. It's stated in this law that was passed last year that Fox Canyon has authority over its current.
Over what it has.
Yes.
So that little piece that overlies Camrosas will always stay with Fox Canyon. No questions.
Underlies, but yeah.
Or the other way, sorry. Okay.
Correct. The challenge is the water in the west part of the basin and the east part of the basin isn't, separated by a barrier. The use of the water affects all parts of the basin.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Oops.
Sure.
Yeah, come
Need
forward,
to come
please.
up so we can.
I just want to bring him so if I say something he disagrees with, he doesn't have to come up. That portion of the basin that you're talking about that's in Fox Canyon, there actually is a Bailey Fault barrier right there that is along that border. So they do act somewhat dissimilar. There is a little link between them. We call it a soft barrier, but it's not a continuous basin.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there is a distinct. Okay.
Okay, I think we've had enough discussion. We have a motion. Is there any discussion further? If not, please vote. Okay, motion to go approve 4-1. All right, we've been asked to, in fact, we're 10 minutes late in our adjournment for this to go to a closed session. So we will take up the remainder of the agenda after this, but Mr. Attorney, would you like to read the various closed session items? I think we have a couple of them.
Yes, I can do that. One is the conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to paragraph 2 of subdivision D of Government Code section 54956.9, number of cases is 1, and our other closed session will be based on a special meeting agenda, and that one will be initiation of litigation pursuant to paragraph 4 of subdivision D of Government Code section 54956.9, number of cases is 1.
Okay, if there's no objection, we'll...
Do we need to call the second meeting to order? The special meeting?
Yes, we should probably do that. Yeah.
For the reading of this one, the second one?
Yes, so you could just call to order that special meeting.
Okay, we'll go back and double up on that. We'll call the special meeting of the City Council to order.
And
let the record show that all members are present. And now, Mr. Attorney, would you...
Right, that would be the one that I just read, Government Code section 54956.9.
All right, that's going to be the agenda for the special meeting. If not, no further discussion. We will stand recessed till 7:30.
Here.
Vice Mayor Morgan.
Here.
Mayor Little.
Here. Councilman Craven, would you give us the flag salute?
Certainly. Please rise, place your hand over your heart, and join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have, do we have any amendments to this agenda?
There are no amendments.
We have a number of presentations, and before to get started with them, I'm going to go over to where we normally handle those presentations, and we'll start with them. Thank you. The first presentation is to a championships AYSO soccer team. And they're not only the champions of Camarillo, but they, I'll just read you a little bit about what they accomplished. This is the Camarillo YSO Extra Program Girls Youth 13, under 13 team speed on winning the championship title for the 2014-15 Western States Games. The Western States Games represent AYSO teams from Alaska, Washington, Oregon, Nevada, and California across all divisions and age groups. This championship means that team speed finished first out of 225,000 AYSO players, and they're from our city. So
wow, that's great.
I'm going to ask the two coaches to come forward and help me out here if they would. Ryan Lodato and Umreo Meyer. Is it Meyer or Mayer? Umreo Meyer. Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a terrific achievement. Yeah. I'd like for you to maybe one of you can help call out the names.
It's up to him.
All right, Justice Jones, forward.
That's a great name.
Bella Gonzalez, forward. Well, I'll just say quickly about Justice, an amazing player, scored 1 million goals this year, worked really hard, a pleasure to have on the team. Bella Gonzalez, she's the only kid, she's one of 2 kids on the team that's actually playing an age group up. Absolutely amazing, scored a lot of goals, really helped the team a lot. Miley Meyer, forward. Miley is my daughter. She has an amazing dad. Malia Baker. Malia Baker, I like to call her Tiny. You can see why. That kid's a whole bunch of energy in a little tiny package. Absolutely amazing. Forward, defense, midfield, she did it all.
What did your daughter play?
My daughter played forward and mid, most of the time forward.
Thank you.
Vicky Gonzalez. So Vicky, an amazing kid, an amazing player. That kid stopped more goals than everybody on our team combined, probably. And she smiled the whole time she was doing it. No matter what, that kid is always smiling. So she's a pleasure to coach. All right, Mia Alcazar, defense. I'm sorry, Vicky is one of our sweepers. Mia is another kid that's playing up, so she's actually a year younger, but playing with the big kids. An amazing defender, has all kinds of game, and she scored the winning goal at state in our overtime victory.
Wow.
Lindsay Shaver. So Lindsay plays midfield for us. She's an amazing athlete at soccer and softball. She's the only kid I know that won the national games last year in soccer with this team, and her softball team won the national games in softball. Amazing. Natalie Bach, midfield. Natalie is one of our 2 left footers on the team, played amazing all year long. She played goalie and left mid, first year on our team, and she really did well. All right, this is the assistant coach's daughter, Sela. Sela Lodato was one of our 2 sweepers. Her and Vicky shut down people that came to our house over and over and over. All-around game, an amazing player. Jadlyn Villasenor. Sorry, Jason. So Jadlyn is our keeper, and I got to tell you, the ball came to our house too many times, but she stopped it time and time again. There was probably 5 or 6 shots on goal in that final game, including in overtime, where she just came up so huge. Without her, we wouldn't have won that game. Madison Bush, defense. Madison Bush is our other left footer. Played defense all year long on the left side. The best players are coming down the right side. That's why she was there. Calm under pressure, great kick, great passing, smart player. She did really well for the team. All right, McKenna Solis, midfield. And to be more specific about McKenna, she played center mid for our team. She was a quarterback. We got her the ball over and over, and she decided which direction the ball would go and where she would take the team. Great job in midfield. And last but not least, Cam. So Cameron Rogers, an excellent player, calm under pressure, over and over. No matter what happens, she stays calm. She came to us from Thousand Oaks. She was a great addition to our team, and we wouldn't have been successful without her. Great job, Cam.
Let's hear another round of applause for these athletes. No, go ahead. Hold them up for the. Yeah.
No.
Here, why don't you?
Bill, you want to have him come up here?
Yeah, let's meet the council and
Scatter all the way across.
Mike, your chair.
I'll get him up and move.
Mayor gets in the middle.
He gets in the middle. Can I get in there?
This is a wide range.
All smiling.
Congratulations, you young ladies.
It's awesome. Paparazzi.
Come on, John.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure, we'll see you all again.
Some will.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you very much.
There's a pen
You know, about
It's on.
about 3 or 4 months ago, we had the Camarillo High School wrestling team, which won the state championship in their wrestling prowess. So for a city of our size, we certainly turned out some really great athletes, and we should all be proud of that.
Took up more room.
Wait till you see our baseball team finish up and softball teams.
They won't do that for the softball or baseball teams. The next presentation we have is for 2 people from our Disaster Assistance Response Team, our DART team, which is a volunteer group associated with the police department. And we're going to honor them, 2 people tonight. First one I would like to have come up is Ed Lamb. sorry.
If you want to, you can have the whole group come up, Bill.
Okay. Oh, the next one, right? I'm sorry. Okay, the one we're going to honor right away is Josette Krieger. Josette. You can see that I'm still a mayor in training. Josette, congratulations. Chief, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. Thank you so much. And once again, another honorable citizen with the city of Camarillo, volunteering many hours. This is Josette Krieger, our Disaster Assistance Response Team Member of the Year, Officer of the Year. Josette joined the DART team in April of 2011, and she's volunteered over 500 hours during her time with DART, including 125 hours in 2014 alone, while still managing to run 2 businesses out of her home. She's born in Linwood, California, and has been a resident of Camarillo since 2003. She's an independent agent for Aflac Insurance and has been doing that for the last 7 years. She's married to her lovely husband, Mitch, for 26 years, and she was elected by the membership as the DART Assets Officer in 2013. And in a nutshell, the Asset Officer requires Josette to issue new members their uniforms, safety equipment, gear, coordinates with Todd Eskridge, our volunteer coordinator, the acquisition of essential equipment or gear, routinely organizes and equips the DART Emergency Response Vehicle and Mobile Command Trailer. She graduated from the city's CERT program and the Sheriff's Citizens Academy in 2010 and currently helps instruct and teach the ongoing classes. She has given presentations about her disaster preparedness and the purpose of DART to the Camarillo Police Department Citizen Academy class. So it's my honor as your Chief of Police to honor Josette with our DART Officer of the Year.
I just want to ask, where's her duck?
Actually, I have a policeman duck.
You do?
There is a certificate of recognition for your outstanding work.
She has a policeman duck.
Absolutely, thank you. You don't have to. Just a few. A few words. No. I want to thank everyone, especially the City Council and also the Sheriff's Department and all of the members with DART. Without them, I wouldn't have done this, been where I am now. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I know the other DART members out there, and they have put in a ton of times themselves. So the people who are in this board, in this group, they devote themselves to the community. I want to tell you, folks, if you see a guy in a uniform like that, thank them.
Okay. Well, last night I attended the Citizen Patrol graduation for the Police Academy, and as I mentioned to them, at that we have a wonderful police department, and we've got wonderful volunteers that assist them in all their various activities. We have another presentation, and I understand there's even going to be a PowerPoint on this one. And down comes the screen. This is to Ed Lamb. Now it's your turn, Ed.
Ed, as many of you know, we've had some serious rock slides, mudslides out at Camarillo Springs, and a number of homes were damaged. Ed's group is an amazing group of guys, volunteers who've been out there, and go ahead and roll it, guys. There's some before and after shots. This is before, behind some of the homes, and after Ed's crew was done helping out, this is what it looks like now.
Wow.
we've got, anyway, this will roll through. You see some before and after shots, and then you'll see some interior shots and all the work that Ed's crew did, and I'll let him tell more about that.
Wow.
It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for. I'm going to accept this honor on behalf of my organization, Southern Baptist Convention Relief. But when I first viewed the property, I had a phone call from Maggie Tugas, who is the chairperson for VOAD. Raise your hand, Maggie. There's Maggie, and she set up an appointment with John Fraser and I, and we went out and toured the site. And when I first went out there, I've done this in lots of different locations, not mud outs, but I usually do ash outs. And this was, it was huge, but it wasn't anything bigger than what I'd seen before, and I knew that we could get in there and do it. All I needed was the okay to start the procedure. And I want to thank the City Council. I want to thank John for helping that to happen. And we got in there, and we had a time element to work with. We were doing it the week before Easter, which is not easy to get volunteers the week before Easter. Wow. But we did get 17 volunteers to come in. And in addition to that, we had teams of people bringing in our 6-person shower, our 6-stall shower unit from San Diego. We brought in a tractor from Fresno. We brought in an excavator from Bakersfield. I went up and picked up our trailer with all of our supplies in Santa Maria. And we set up operation at the First Baptist Church on Temple in Camarillo. And we commenced our operations, and 8 days later we had cleared the 3 properties. I feel bad that we couldn't get in there and do all of them, but restrictions and they are red tagged, and I don't want to put anybody in harm's way to complete the task. But anyway, thank you for all the cooperation. Thank you, Maggie, for the introduction to John so that we could get in here and do this. And that's about all I've got, except that the people that came in were from all over the state of California. I had people from Petaluma, from Modesto, from Santee, Riverside, and everybody said, we had a debriefing every night. And after everybody's had their shower and been well fed, they're ready to talk. And they were really impressed with the city of Camarillo and how beautiful it was. They said this must really be an upscale community. So I thought you needed to hear that, because that's exactly their comment. And they love the way that it's set out with all the shrubbery and the landscaping, and the way the residential areas are separate from the shopping areas. And I think you guys are doing a good job. So.
While you're talking about it, I understand this organization, the Southern Baptist Convention organization, has been involved in a number of disasters.
Yes.
Can you just comment, let the speaker know about this?
Yeah, we are involved in a lot of different things. We're second in size only to American Red Cross. In California, we have 4,000 plus trained volunteers, so that when our people hit the ground, we hit it running, and we're ready to take on the task. Our major things are the cleanup and recovery phase, and also the mass feeding. We have 3 mobile kitchens in California. Each one will produce 35,000 hot meals a day. Wow. With a crew to sustain it. And we've proven time and time again that we can do it. And San Diego in 2007, we had 500,000 people out of their homes, and we fed them. And so we're capable of doing it. And we have 100 of those kitchens across the nation with 100,000 trained volunteers across the nation. Wow. And we have other areas we work with, like chainsaw crews that we'll send them back to the Midwest in the wintertime for ice outs, when people have these ice storms and they have trees on their homes and stuff. We also have chaplaincy teams. Our chaplain trainer is lead chaplain for the FBI. Her office is in Langley, Virginia. I was in communication with her the whole time that we were in Camarillo Springs doing the work, and she was actually in Ukraine that whole time. She couldn't discuss what she was doing, but that our U.S. government even recognizes the need for chaplains. On the site in Camarillo, I had 8 chaplains present. They were working along with everybody else, but I had 8 chaplains. I requested at least that many because I knew that the citizens of Camarillo Springs, in the few times that I'd visited out there, everybody had something to say. And not everybody had been heard, and not everybody had a chance to just have somebody listen. And that's what our chaplains are trained to do, is to listen and also to ask the right questions so people will open up and share their gut level feelings. And we had an opportunity to do that time and time again. My dear friend there, Barbara Williams, did us a huge favor when she sent out a newsletter to all the residents and said, now the Baptists are going to be working on San Como and what is it?
Gitana.
And she says, stay away from the area. And that was the red flag. Man, that first day, they wanted to see what was going on up there. Thank you, Barbara. That just worked out perfectly for us. Also, as we were deployed out there, I had a kitchen crew that was working. They'd come down from Petaluma, and they were working at the Baptist church. And I instructed them each day. I said, I want at least a dozen extra meals as you're fixing the meals for the workers, so that whoever's present, we can invite them to stop and have a sandwich with us or share a meal. And that worked out good. We always seemed to just have just enough food, and it always worked out. And whoever was around there, they got fed at lunchtime. And then we met a lot of the homeowners that were walking by or jogging by or walking their dogs at that time, too. So anyway, the 3 homes that we cleared, we're very happy that we could do that and get a chance to get started again. It was very messy with the lowboy containers that, first of all, thank you for allowing Tom Staben the temporary permit to work with us, because I wanted all that rock and debris to go back on the mountain and not go into a landfill. And I know that Dave Harrison agreed to take it, but I wanted Tom Staben to take it so that he could repurpose it, and that worked out really good. I just can't thank the citizens of Camarillo enough. Every time I would go out, being the logistics officer, I was all over the city during that period of time, and everywhere I went, they saw our shirts and they'd seen the newspaper coverage, and everybody seems to be connected to the residents of Camarillo Springs. We got positive feedback. Thanks for helping our neighbors. Thanks for helping our friend or our golf buddy or whatever. So you have a great community here, and thank you for allowing us to come in and work with you.
Here's a certificate of recognition for your organization, and it is just an amazing organization. I've heard about it before, and we've experienced it now. So thank you very much. We want to take our pictures here. Yeah.
I have one quick story I want to share with you. The next to the last day of our deployment, we were working on San Como, and we'd been working there for several days, and I was working as a spotter. When we were working with heavy equipment, we always have spotters. We don't want to back equipment over a citizen. If we back over each other, we got yellow shirts on, we're easy to find. So, we don't want to back over citizens. But a lady came out of the house across the street from Phil Leeds' property, and she said, last week I opened my drapes and I looked out, and she says, I was so angry. She said, I saw all these old men wearing yellow shirts in Phil Leeds' garage just standing around. She says, I called my daughter and I told her, Phil's paying these guys good money, and there they are just standing around. And her daughter told her, she said, Mom, if you look a little closer, those are the Baptists, and they're not getting paid. And if you look even closer, Phil's probably standing there because they're probably saying a prayer before they eat their lunch. So it was a humorous moment, and we shared a good laugh over it. But you have a great city here. Thank you very much.
We'll start down there.
Yeah, I just want to thank you and your organization. Really, really needed, really, really helpful, and it's a wonderful organization that you have, and you do some outstanding work. So I know you're busy, but to come down here and to do it speaks volumes of your credibility, and I want to thank you. And if you'll pass that along, too, to all your volunteers, I'd appreciate it.
Morgan?
It's 2 things. One, honestly tell you how much we appreciate what you've done for us. And the other is, what Baptist church, which one were you at?
We were at the Baptist Church on Temple.
Oh.
First Baptist.
Yeah, First Southern Baptist. Mm-hmm.
Charlotte?
I just want to say thank you. Great big thank you.
And Jan?
And I will just echo that. Thank you. An amazing organization. When you hear the size and what you do in this country, it just heart-wrenching. I mean, it's just wonderful. It's just absolutely wonderful. It's what this country's all about, and you're the perfect example of it.
You're right, Jan. That's it's what made America. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Well, we honored some really great people, and thank you. Let's see where the agenda is here. Okay, moving on down here, we have public comments. I have three.
Don't we have one more presentation?
Regional sand
Oh,
is
I'm
here,
sorry.
Bill. Yeah.
Regional sand. I'm sorry. Where did I miss? Oh, I did miss that. I apologize. Someone from Regional Sand.
Mark is here.
Mark? Oh, there Mark is.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. It's nice to see everybody again. My name is Mark Lawler. I'm the general manager for Ventura Regional Sanitation District, and every year I come out and just reintroduce myself to the city. I mean, most of you know us. I know Councilmember Kildee is your current representative on our board, and I'm not going to go into a lot about us because all of you know us. And what I want to do tonight is share, like, just some of the more successes that we have that have really required a lot of cooperation between the cities and some of the other parties that really help have a regional benefit to this area. What I passed this out. This is just for you to look at. I'm not going to go through this page by page. It just lists a lot of our water and wastewater services that we provide. Currently, your city doesn't use a lot of those services, but it's just something there to keep in mind, and if you need them or need them, please do. What I really want to share with you tonight is just talk a little bit about the landfill. Now, you don't contract with us directly for the landfill, but you do contract with the Harrisons as your hauler, and they contract with us. So indirectly, our landfill serves your city, all of your city. And I'm going to go back in history a little bit, because as when the economy started shrinking, especially in 2008, like in most places, everybody started feeling the pinch. And our landfill at that point in time, we were receiving a little less than 300,000 tons a year, but the permanent value was close to 460,000 tons. So for quite a few years, we were well below where our capacity was. Well, in about 2010 or maybe 11, the City of Oxnard's contract was expiring with Waste Management, and there was an opportunity for us to renegotiate some tons. But in order to do that, and that negotiation did go, and we did receive significant tons from the City of Oxnard. But in order to do that, it required significant cooperation from your hauler, the Harrisons. And I got to tell you, they really stepped up to the plate, because as we started juggling our operation around to receive those additional tons, it meant they had to make some changes. The City of Oxnard had to make some changes, and so did we. But in this cooperative effort, and it really was a cooperative effort between everybody involved, that we currently have about 410,000 tons coming into landfill. And what that translates into you is that's allowed us to keep your rates. We have not raised our rates in almost 6 years. So that's been a real benefit, and by members of your council sitting on our board and everybody working together, it really has provided a pretty reasonable return for the region. So with that, I thank you, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but that's probably the biggest impact we've had on this city, because it's the largest service that you use that we have. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mark, I want to thank you for, being here tonight, and I know that you went into that contract with Oxnard, but how much it really helped our budget. And I think even more than that, it like you kind of alluded to, that it got a lot of the cities together to work for one common goal. And I think that was, I remember many, long nights in Oxnard with you at the helm there trying to get that through. And you did a great job with that. And I know that, it's a lot of work, but VRSD is really, really on the move. And I know maybe you'd like to mention your staff and whatnot.
There's too many of them. I know, Bruce, I'd like to keep it a little short tonight. I think you have a pretty crowded agenda, no? But I mean, we have a lot of staff. Councilmember Kildee, I don't know which ones you'd like to point out.
Well, I know they all do a great job for you, and I know that you've worked really hard in trying to get that organization staffed at the right level, and it is, and it's a credit to you and the management there.
Thank you.
Mark, I got a question.
Yes.
Mark, there's a lot more you guys do than you're letting the audience know this evening, and you're cutting it short because you guys do a whole lot more than that.
I know.
And for the public to know what other things you do that are making the community a better community, a green community, I call it, you might want to, without going into the regional sanitary, the other one, the what I call sanitary plant, which you do a lot there, and that's the whole story. But let's just talk about what we're involved in and some of the things you guys do out there to make it a better place.
Which ones do you want? You
can talk about the power, energy,
biosolids and the power generation and all that
stuff. Let them know.
Yeah, the landfill's an opportunity. It has a lot of resources. Specifically, the largest resource is the gas that we have. As the trash decomposes in the landfill, produces methane gas. We've been pretty aggressive at finding alternate methods to put that to a higher and better beneficial use. One of the things we started about 7 or 8 years ago was the biosolids facility that 5 cities are partnered in, and we do take all of their. So we essentially process about 66 to 70% of all the biosolids generated in the county of Ventura. It's the only county in the state that I'm aware of. In fact, it's the only county in the country that I'm aware of where there's a regional partnership to do that. And so that's a real success story for this county, and truly, as you as a member of the board. So that's one big thing. But the second biggest thing that we have is the power generation. We were not only able to power up the biosolids facility, but we were also able to power up 9 microturbines, 6 of which export about 1.5 megawatts to the grid. It generates about $1 million a year in sales, but it also took us off the grid. So that facility, I mean, when they go down, they have a runtime of approaching 90%. So we're off the grid most of the time. We don't take any power. So that was a real benefit too. So those are the green aspects you're talking about. And plus all the shipping of the material out of the county, because prior to this facility, most people were hauling it a good 150 to 200 miles away up into Kern County. And so we took about 700,000 or 800,000 truck miles off the road, which translates into a significant amount of carbon footprint. So all those things were successful with the partnerships that you and along with the other cities that are on our board have achieved.
See how much more you had to give us? There's so much there for the public to know. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Appreciate it. Okay, now we turn to the public comments that are not on the agenda. We have 3 cards. First one is Shanna Harper. Please state your name for the record, please.
Hello, my name is Shanna Harper.
You want to bring your microphone?
Can you hear me? No. How's that?
That's better.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. I'm Shanna Harper. I bought a home here September 2013, so a little over 18 months ago. And my husband and I moved our business from Santa Clarita. It's called Performance Picture Vehicles. I'm a co-owner. And we leased property from Department of Airports and the County of Ventura. And everything has been smooth sailing and wonderful and love Camarillo. And until recently, just weeks ago, we received notice that we were going to have to vacate and that our lease would be dissolved with the County of Ventura and Department of Airports, along with all the other tenants around us that exist and have leases at the Camarillo Airport. I guess some city officials have decided to enforce a code, 19.30.030, that hasn't been enforced in decades. And then, in order to stay temporarily, they've invoked a temporary use permit, which I just found out is very new. I'm the first applicant. I dropped it off last week. 2 weeks ago, I met with Steve Mitchell in the planning department. He answered my questions so that I could fill out the application properly. And I asked him the fee. It was $305. And when I went back 3 business days later to file it, it was $638. So I'm wondering, is the city council even aware of what is going on in the Camarillo Airport area? I've discussed some things with my neighbors. They're discontent, like myself. There's one particular tenant that shares a fence line with me that has been there for, I guess, about 15 years. He has been grandfathered in, which means he gets to stay. His business model is very similar to mine and my husband's, except that we rent out police vehicles and stunt equipment to film and television companies. And so it's pretty much a storage yard for us. But we also utilize the runway, and we have a members-only driving school where we train some new up-and-coming stunt people. So this gentleman, Bobby Orr, Motorsports, who's allowed to stay, has been there quite a bit longer, but is not even a resident of the state. So I'm a resident, I pay taxes, I'd like to keep my business going. The members that come buy lunch, gas, shop in the stores, love Camarillo, go to the outlets, and we're all being shut down, except for Bobby Orr Motorsports, who has been grandfathered in and gets to stay. So I'd really like to know why that is.
Can I ask?
Yes.
Have you checked with Todd lately?
Oh, yeah, I had a meeting, Todd McNamee.
Yes.
Yes, we met last week.
Have you talked to him since?
He's in Sacramento right now. I told him I was
Okay.
coming to the city council meeting.
I'd advise you to talk to him when he gets back.
Oh, is that going to help me? Because I just had a meeting with him last week, and he's on our side. He wants us all to stay. We're providing revenue. So I don't know what difference it would make than last week to this week.
There's a difference.
Does that mean that there's no longer an ordinance that's going to be enforced? I don't understand.
Mr. City Manager?
Why don't we let our staff address this instead
I
of us?
think we ought to get a report from the city staff if we could do that. And I'm not aware of any activity out there.
Ma'am, I got last week.
Okay.
They may get an extension for a
Right.
year.
That's the temporary use permit I mentioned.
That's for not real short. I mean, you could be there a while.
1 year is my maximum. We just put up fencing and a cement pad and have spent $10,000 to make this our home for our business, because our agreement with the airport was that we would be able to do that. Since we're sharing it with Bobby Orr and he'd been over there 15 years, or more, I'm estimating, we assumed that we would have longevity there. So that's why we put money into it and assumed staying. And the airport says, yeah, we'd love for you to stay. We're happy to take your money. We don't want you to leave. I don't know why this is being enforced all of a sudden. That's the feedback
I think we ought
got.
to ask the staff to provide a report to us as to what the enforcement action is and the reasons for it, and perhaps some alternatives.
I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
And we'll have it, we can talk later about it.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you. I appreciate it.
May I ask one question of staff? Can you just tell us, is it the city that's enforcing this ordinance, or is it the airport?
City.
It's the city.
Correct.
That's correct.
Okay.
Could you talk to our staff about it and what might be coming and what might happen? And you did do a cement parking space?
We just did a little cement pad to make a level work area within the confines of the fence. So not really for parking space, just a level work area, because it's gravel and it's considered undeveloped. But we're in an M1 industrial zone, so we're in compliance with what we're allowed to do, the permitted uses.
You might want to speak with staff on the side.
I have, and they said that we need to develop it and make a building and
this staff.
landscaping and walls. Oh.
In short, Council, the uses parking on gravel and dirt are not in compliance with our development code. And so the temporary use permit allows them to park on the native surface for an original period of up to 6 months in the temporary use permit that you approved earlier this year, and then for an extension of another 6 months. After that time, the airport really has to come to grips with putting that property into a developed state. It is not the City Council's policy to allow land uses on native dirt forever. And so, from staff's perspective and from from city policy, you have to kind of look at the airport situation in that, yes, they are making a tremendous amount of money, but quite frankly, they are not reinvesting that into the development of the property to put it in conformance with our codes. And unfortunately, the airport has leased to people who have put in some minimal improvements like fencing, but it does not meet our code.
Is this the property that is adjacent to the hangar areas to the west, on the west side of the airport?
No, it's adjacent to the animal control animal services shelter.
Oh, okay.
We're directly behind the animal shelter.
I see. Yeah, I know where you are. Yeah.
So it's really just been a big open lot that's been used for air shows for parking for years.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just kind of subdivided it with the County of Ventura's permission, and we're only renting 6,000 square feet right there. It's just a 60-foot by 100-foot lot.
Council, when you adopted the temporary use permit, it really did force the issue as to having continued undeveloped uses in town. And so when we instituted that permit, it really brought to issue very quickly the idea that you have perennial and long-term use of undeveloped property not in conformance with our code.
Your Honor.
Yes.
Could I just suggest that when you and Mr. Morgan go to the next airport authority meeting, maybe you suggest to the airport powers that be that they get their land in a conformance?
Number one, Charlotte, we did bring that up. That was at the last meeting, period. And it's more than that because they make $250,000 over all those people parking there right now. They'll lose that money, number one, and they don't have it in the enterprise fund right now to go improve that. If they improve it, if someone comes in and wants the land, because it is open for development, they want the land because things can happen fast there. They want the land all of a sudden to build something on, they have to tear up all the cement that they just put in.
Well, they're leasing it to people.
Right.
We'll have to talk about it.
So I'd like to propose briefly, and maybe it's just something you can discuss at a later time, that maybe those of us that were there and had a lease could remain, and those newcomers maybe have to be enforced under this code. But to have some of us leave and leave one individual there who happened to be there the longest, and we've been there a year already, it just doesn't seem right.
That to me is worrisome. So
Me too.
we'll ask for a report.
You bring that up, okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. The next one is Carl Lawson. Please give your name. Identify yourself for the record.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor. Pardon me. Honorable Mayor, members of council, my name is Carl Lawson. I'm an 18-year resident of the city, and I live at 1675 Lyndhurst Avenue. And I'm here today to ask you to take a couple of steps to reduce the potential exposure to the city and potentially save lives. Live in a residential neighborhood. I want to try to paint a picture of the block I live on and tell you what happened 8 days ago. Residential street, as in most neighborhoods in Camarillo, beautifully constructed street, nice wide, no vision obstructions. A one-block street which ends in a T intersection. On the right-hand side, solid houses. The left-hand side has 3 cul-de-sacs going off to the left. Last Monday, trash day. The E.J. Harrison trash going down the right-hand side of the street and has stopped at the last house to pick up the trash containers. Picks up the containers, puts them in, moves on to the next house, picks up the containers, puts them in, moves on to the next house. Gets to the last house on the street, puts the containers back in, immediately goes in reverse, high speed to go back. Smashes into my wife, who is in her car, stopped 2 houses behind, waiting for the truck to go. Did not hear the honking, obviously did not check the mirrors, and amazingly, as was confirmed later by the police report, did not look at the rear camera video display monitor. Fortunately, my wife was not seriously injured. Our car was destroyed. The police came, did their report, and the reasoning given by the E.J. Harrison operator was that his next route was up one of the cul-de-sacs, and rather than taking the time to turn around and go up there, he backed up. The gentleman in whose house the accident ended up happening confirmed to me that this is common practice for the trucks to go in reverse at a high rate of speed. I'm not here so much about my own situation, but it could have been a kid. It could have been a pedestrian, and anybody there who had been hit by that truck would have been instantly killed. This is obviously not the first time it happened. So what I'm asking this city to do, I'm asking your city manager and your risk manager to please investigate Harrison's practices as it regards with respect to drivers going in reverse. Under what circumstances are they allowed to go in reverse? Are they incentivized on their employment practices to speed up, to cut corners? This could cause lives. And I believe it is the city ultimately, in the city's ultimate best interest to ensure that the practices of your carrier, of the trash contractor, do not endanger the lives of people. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you.
I have a written statement I'd like to
Anyone have
turn
any
in.
questions of...
What is your name again?
My name is Carl Lawson. First name K-A-R-L, last name Lawson, L-A-W-S-O-N.
What was the street that you live on again, Mr. Lawson?
I live on Lyndhurst. The accident
Lyndhurst.
happened on Tamarix, which is right behind us, on the same block. My wife was actually returning from a doctor's appointment. And I should point out, the video from the accident shows that she had stopped, was waiting for him, and he came back a full 2.5 houses before hitting her car.
Well, we refer this to staff to make appropriate contacts with the people at Harrison and start working on this.
I thank you very much for your consideration and your time.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
We're certainly glad your wife is okay.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you. The next card, last card we have is Matthew Lorimer.
Good evening. My name is Matt Lorimer. I live at the Lamplighter Mobile Home Park. I just want to remind the public, May 4th at 8:30, the city's holding a policy committee regarding the rent review board. It does need changes. If you live in an apartment or a mobile home park, I urge you to come. The next thing I want to talk about is we've been in a drought for 4 years. Some say it's been longer. It depends. The governor's asked us to cut water. You know, people in this in Camarillo came because they didn't want Canal Creek project, the traffic, the mitigation circumstances, and water. Now we got the Mission Oaks townhomes, 129 homes. If you double the parking, that means there's at least 2 people. That's 300 plus kids, whatever. That whole area can't take more congestion. And why would a city council embark on approving another project where it takes more water? We have some words for that. Irresponsible, catering to developers, whatever you want to call it. It's reckless, irresponsible when cities are being asked to cut water that should continue to go on this. Now, let me tell you something. We're building another high school. That area has traffic problems. Now we're going to build townhomes. That means when you get off the freeway, how are you going to mitigate 150 cars going off the freeway, going on, blocking up the traffic? How are you going to like living with that if you live in Camarillo? If you live in Camarillo, your city council and staff have asked you to cut water. They want you to tear out your lawns. But what do? They go ahead, and now we're pushing on more development. You know, there's something wrong when people don't listen, when they work at the city and they're councilmen and they don't listen to the public. You can't mitigate the traffic. You can't continue to add more and more. You're starting to look like the San Fernando Valley. That kind of planning is what you do. You just start dropping projects wherever it seems possible. You start talking to councilmen, you go, hey, I want to drop a couple hundred homes there, a couple hundred homes there. The only problem is you can't mitigate the traffic. You don't have the 405, the 118. You can't mitigate it. So here we go again. We're basically headed down the same road. Again, there was no vegetables growing on this property. It's been bare. The idea that you're going to approve another project and use more water when you're asking citizens to cut water is ridiculous. It shows that you're catering to somebody. Okay? The pressure from the public is why you dropped the Canal Creek project. I think you should seriously look at dropping this project. It's ridiculous, makes no sense. It's reckless, irresponsible when we're in a drought. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Thank you. All right, that takes care of the public comments, and we will now proceed to public hearings. We have a resolution determining the assessment for the city's cost for compliance with the municipal stormwater NPDES management permit. Can we have a staff report?
Yes, Your Honor. While this is a public hearing, it is an item that we review annually. It's a housekeeping item we need to go through to continue a program that's already in place, and that is our stormwater quality program. The item before you is to consider a resolution that would request the county to continue the program by continuing to levy the benefit assessment, which equates to roughly $5 for a single-family home on an annual basis. This program started back in the 90s, where at the time the requirements, the regulatory requirements for stormwater quality cost us about $150,000 a year to implement on an annual basis. We also received about $150,000 in the benefit assessment. So we had a balanced program. Over time, the benefit assessment has not been increased. However, the costs have gone up to $1.3 million because of additional regulations and so on. So we still have to move forward with the program. We finance the difference, but we should at least continue the $150,000 assessment and request the county to call for that for the next fiscal year 15-16. Just as a side note, all the cities in the county work together cooperatively under one permit. We have a principal permittee. The county serves in that role, and then all the cities are co-permittees. And the co-permittees and the principal permittee have been considering looking into whether it would make sense to at least poll the community being the Ventura County community, to see if there's an interest in raising that benefit assessment to make sure we have enough revenue to keep up with the stormwater quality requirements. They're still looking into that, but we'll keep you informed as that moves forward, if they do decide to move forward with the program, to at least go out with a polling effort to see if there's an interest to support this program. But in the meantime, we should at least continue with the assessment that has been adopted in the past and continue that. So the item before you is to recommend approval of the resolution in your packet.
Is there any questions of Tom about what we're talking about? Okay, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishes to appear before the City Council and talk about the $5 per parcel benefit assessment for the purposes of stormwater management? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I'll move that we adopt a resolution authorizing the $5 assessment per BAU for the inclusion into the benefit assessment program of the Ventura County Watershed Protection District.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there a discussion? Not, please vote. That motion carries 5-0. That's the last of the public hearings. We go to departmental. Update on Camarillo Springs debris flow resolution extending emergency proclamation. Can we have staff report, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to introduce this item. On your agenda, you'll see items A and B on this subject matter, the Camarillo Springs debris issue. We'd like to present this together jointly, the two items, so that we have one comprehensive report. It seems to make sense.
Any objections?
Okay.
If not,
and then that way also, I think we have a number of members from the public that would like to speak. They can address the issue.
If anyone, do we have cards? Yes. Sir. Okay. All right.
So with that, we're going to start with Mr. Pirrick, the city attorney, and then we'll transition over to Mr. Fox, the public works director.
Yeah, thank you. The item A on the agenda is an update on the Camarillo Springs debris flow and the resolution extending the emergency proclamation. The city has received the report from Geodynamics of April 14th of 2015 that Mr. Fox will comment upon in a moment. And with respect to the emergency proclamation, I'll mention at this time that the council voted on April 8th, 2015 to extend the emergency proclamation. However, under the government code, you are required to review the emergency proclamation every 30 days to determine whether to extend or terminate. And because of the way the calendar worked, the first meeting in May is May 13th, which was more than 30 days after April 8th. As a result, we needed to bring it back to you this evening for you to make the decision on whether or not you wish to again vote to extend the emergency proclamation. So your choices are either to vote to extend the emergency proclamation for the reasons stated in the resolution, and that's your first choice, or if you should decide to terminate the emergency proclamation, that's another alternative that's available to you. So that's all I have to say about the emergency proclamation. We'll come back to you later to ask for you to take action. That's one of the action items. Another action item is the one that's referenced in departmental item B in terms of the city-sponsored debris mitigation. So at this point, I would ask if Mr. Fox could elaborate on updating on the status and the geodynamics report, and then also, as Mr. Feng indicated, there will be Mr. Fox will as well have comments about the city-sponsored debris mitigation.
I have a question for...
Yes.
And Mr. Perrick, when we get to the time to make the motion, can we combine that into one motion, or do we have to do them separately?
You should do them separately.
Thank you.
Your Honor, again, there were debris flows on October 31st and December 11th that created damage and required emergency services to respond. Typically, the way that would work is emergency services would immediately stabilize the situation, make sure everybody's safe, and then once a stable situation has been achieved, emergency services pulls out or demobilizes, and at that point the homeowners association or the community, being a private community, the homeowners and the homeowners association would take responsibility from that point to continue with the recovery. However, we were fortunate in that the NRCS, I always refer to them as the National Resource Conservation Service, is a federal agency that many times we will contact if there's been some kind of damage and they won't have adequate resources to be able to respond with grant funding. But in this case, we were fortunate they were able to respond. They granted $960,000 towards which is the total project cost. 25% of that would be a local match. They granted that to provide some immediate response and some mitigation work to reduce the risk of future damage. That project has been completed. The work was done per a plan that was prepared by NRCS, and the really what remains is just what we call demobilization work, where we've placed K-rail, for example, in the community to protect certain homes, and the K-rail in some cases is blocking access that people would like restored, the access restored, so we'll need to remove the K-rail. We're working with the homeowners association to identify which residents want the K-rail removed, and then we'll, as a one-time move-in, which we're pretty much prepared now. If we have a complete list, we'll move in the next day or two and be able to remove the K-rail. There's also one homeowner who has agreed to have some K-rail extended along a drainage channel that we'll implement for that person as well. And then we're completed. There will be demobilized. We've actually, to continue the work, we've actually had to spend some city funds to complete the initial work that was planned by NRCS. Incidentally, in order to move forward with that work, you had to adopt findings that allowed the city to even take over and sponsor the NRCS work, which, because the community is private, NCRS would not work directly with the homeowners association. The city had to sponsor it. Before the city could sponsor it, because we'd be using some public funds to move into the community and help out, which typically we're not allowed to do when it's a private community, we had to make certain findings that allowed us to move forward with that. Since that work is completed, we really do need to discontinue the work, any more work. We're finished with what we were engaged to do with NRCS, and so as we finish the demobilization over the next few days, then we would the responsibility would revert back to the homeowners association, then to continue with any programs that they would want to move forward with beyond that point.
Questions of Mr. Fox? All right. We have some people who would like to speak on this matter, and we'll call them up in the order of the cards we received. Jim Lingle.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, staff, my name is Jim Lingle. I'm an attorney, and I'm representing the Camarillo Springs Common Area Association. I do not have any particular comments about extending or terminating the emergency declaration. During my discussions with the city attorney and the city manager, they've indicated that it does not, its existence does not help a lot one way or the other. But to point out the obvious, it did rain today, and there is a 25% chance of rain on Friday. I'm praying it rains, just not very hard and not out into the spring. What I really want to address tonight is the dangerous condition that exists above the springs condition, and which was spelled out at some length in the geodynamics report. The geodynamics report contains a risk assessment section on page 6, and I just want to quote one tiny bit of it. At the end of it, it talks about, the fact that we're going to get stuff growing up there again, and it may help mitigate some of this. But the quote is, regardless of the vegetative cover, the steep gradient of the drainage, and the changes in the channel morphology, the continued presence of debris both on the side slopes and in the channels, and the potential for future burn events precludes a conclusion that natural processes alone will be sufficient to reduce the risk to an acceptable level in the foreseeable future. The geotechnical report that had been commissioned by the association from Grover Hollingsworth was even more dire. It suggested that there were more serious problems that are facing the association. Both the geodynamics report and the Grover Hollingsworth report suggest that there are mitigation measures that are potentially possible that would reduce the risks. The property that upon which the risk arises is within the city of Camarillo, but is outside of the Springs developments. And the city can do something about that. Section 9.12.20 of the Camarillo City Code defines a public nuisance in a variety of ways, one of which is topography which, this is a quote, it is a public nuisance for topography which, whether in a natural state or as a result of erosion or grading operations, yeah,
yeah, sure, go ahead.
Causes or is likely to cause erosion, subsidence, or surface water runoff, which will or may be injurious to persons and or adjacent public or private properties. And, I feel a little bit like Andy Griffith and Matlock. I want to say, hey, I'm just a country lawyer, but when I look at the the geodynamics report and the Grover Hollingsworth report, and I look at the definition of a public nuisance in the Camarillo City Code, it sure looks like that's exactly what we have there. So because this is potentially a public nuisance, you as the city have the authority to order the property owners to abate it. That is, to take effective steps to prevent these hillsides from coming down on the residents of Camarillo Springs again in the future. My request is that the City Council authorize staff to evaluate whether it is appropriate and timely for the city to order that neighboring property owner to take effective measures to abate the clear and dangerous nuisance that exists on the slopes above the Camarillo Springs development. Thank you very much. I'll answer any questions if you got.
Any questions of Mr. Lingle? No, we'll have a discussion on your request, though.
Thank you very much.
During the course of this discussion. Linda Lawrence is the next party.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, and staff. My name is Linda Lawrence, and because my brother Phil Eads is on business travel, I'm here to read a letter from him on behalf of the Eads Family Trust related to property located at 6416 San Como Lane. The letter that you have been provided was emailed earlier today, and it reads as follows. Our house at 6416 San Como Lane was one of the houses impacted by the debris flow in the fall of 2014 as a result of the 2013 Springs fire. I previously provided background on property transition of my mother's house to my sister and I, the Eads Family Trust. The GDI report has identified our property and our neighbors below us to be at risk for future debris flows due to the young erosion. The NRCS debris platform work completed to date addresses the barrancas but does not address the risk associated with the young erosion. The report also describes the erosion path as a cause of a small debris flow, and we would not characterize almost 2 weeks of debris removal on the outside of our property, as well as the damage caused on the interior, as small. We respectfully disagree. As outlined in the mitigation description of the report, any possible future flows from the young erosion area needs to be intercepted and redirected to debris basins. We understand the challenges of more permanent mitigation measures such as debris basins versus the current debris platforms, but are seeking some mitigation measure be pursued other than the damaged K-rails that have been placed above our property and that of our neighbors below. Without any further mitigation plans for the young erosion path, we cannot have peace of mind as we prepare to repair and reoccupy the property. As the city report indicates, NRCS grants cannot be awarded to a private community, and the city became a sponsor to receive the grant and implement the NRCS plan related to the debris platforms and associated work. We still need the support of the city in pursuing NRCS assistance or any other type of assistance to mitigate the young erosion issues, and respectfully request the city extend the emergency proclamation. As a homeowner on San Como Lane, we alone cannot personally take steps to protect our property due to the various property owners of the hillside above us. It is our understanding that with this emergency proclamation, it gives the city authority to do things on private property that otherwise cannot be accomplished. This whole ordeal has and continues to be a traumatic experience for the city's senior population in Camarillo Springs, and we need your continued assistance. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of, okay, no question. Thank you. Barbara Williams.
Barbara Williams, Mayor Little and other members of the City Council. Regarding Agenda Item 19A, the update on the Springs debris flow resolution extending emergency proclamation. The Springs HOA requests the City Council extend the emergency declaration to allow 1. Homeowners resolve issues with their insurance providers. 2. Homeowners have an opportunity to appeal the requirement to sign a release to secure permits or repair or rebuild, and to have the indemnification clauses removed. The yellow tagged homeowners with limited risk should be issued permits. to facilitate negotiation with Caltrans regarding debris flows and drainage from the Freeway Hill that are affecting homeowners. And 5, to provide the HOA and its consultant time to review the geodynamics report dated April 14, 2015, and comment on the analysis and recommendations. Regarding agenda item 19B, conclude city-sponsored debris mitigation at Camarillo Springs. The Springs HOA requests that you do not designate completion for the NRCS project until the K-rail placement above the Elliott home at 6390 Sancoma Lane has been completed, and as agreed by the city staff, K-rails on the streets have been moved to a storage location. Item 7 of the conclusion section of the Geodynamics Incorporated report dated April 14, 2015, commissioned by the City of Camarillo, states that there remains a potential risk of debris flow events from the Young erosion area. This is the one that was brought to the City Council 2 meetings ago. This is the newly created channel that has previously been addressed by Mr. Elliott and homeowner Phil Eads. The current mitigation is use K-rails placed along the downhill edge of the V-ditch that is perpendicular to the erosion channel. We kindly request that city staff open a dialogue with the NRCS to establish a new project to reconsider establishing a plan to redirect the flow from this channel to the debris platform implemented in the project addressed by this agenda item. Thank you, Barbara Williams, President of the Springs HOA Board of Directors.
Okay. Any questions of Barbara? Okay, thank you, Barbara. We have one more card that's been turned in, Elton Galgley.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council. I'm Elton Galgley, and I want to thank all of you for patiently listening to some of my appeals in the last couple of weeks, particularly after we received the release agreement where there was an indemnification. I know that I'm not alone, but I can only speak for myself personally and directly, although I have been contacted by other homeowners whose attorneys have told them is unfortunately I had to seek attorneys' advice on this, that they said under no circumstances agree to the indemnification. It puts us all in a difficult position if we're going to move ahead with trying to get our homes back, and of course I'm speaking on behalf of the trust. So I again make that appeal and perhaps some kind of a response from the council tonight about what your intentions are. I've heard different things from the meeting on Monday and so on, that clause was going to be removed. I will ask a couple of questions, and if you'd like to respond, fine. That would be the first. The other is I'd ask if we've had a pretty thorough report, and what has been the involvement of the county flood control on any of the mitigation issues, because mitigation is really the ultimate resolution here. And I guess if no one knows, I'll accept that. But for many years, I've had the opportunity to work with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Today I had a very long conversation with the former regional director who is now retired. His name is Bob Joe. I'm sure there are members up here that know who he is. He is a retired colonel. And I asked him about this. Where is the county flood control? And so he said that he believes that it has the possibility of having support from the Corps of Engineers. I've worked with them on Santa Paula Creek, on Cayugas Creek, Santa Paula Airport, and any tens of millions of dollars worth of work in this county, most of it in this end of the county. So I would just ask staff if anybody wants to respond about whether they have explored with the Corps of Engineers or had any feedback from the county flood control, because that is their jurisdiction. Thank you for giving me the time tonight.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else wishes to be heard? If not, we'll move on to our discussion at the council table. Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, I could respond on a couple points, if you wish, to what the comments were. I know that there have been questions raised about the release that was submitted to the homeowners. We had a meeting with the HOA on Monday about that, and some questions were raised. And I can just say at this point that we are reviewing the release to determine what modifications might be appropriate to that. And we will be getting back in touch with the homeowners shortly on that point. On the other points,
would that be within the next week or so?
Yes, certainly within the next week. If not any later than next Wednesday, and hopefully before that. And then in terms of the questions about the geodynamics report and the comments on that, I don't know if Mr. Fox had anything to comment upon on that point or not. No? Okay. So if the council has questions, we're certainly available to answer them. As I mentioned, the two action items on the agenda this evening are the decision on whether to extend the proclamation or not, and then the other decision on item B on the agenda, which was to consider a motion to confirm that the NCS sponsored NCR and RCS project is completed as stated in the agenda. So those are your two action items. And as I mentioned in response to the question from Councilmember Kildee, that would require separate motions.
Question when you're ready.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, maybe staff or Brian or Bruce, if you can maybe answer this. When would the K-rails on, I think it's Mr. Elliott's property, be removed? And the K-rails on the street, do we have a time, specific time when that's going to happen?
We would have to coordinate with the contractor, but the expectation is, depending on your action tonight, we would proceed tomorrow to work with them to schedule a demobilization over the next few days. And just to be clear, there's some locations where we're removing K-rail, others where there's been a request to add K-rail. I won't go into details on each of those, but that's what we're working with, is to make sure we're very clear with which residents want what action.
Yeah, and so that's just a phone call to get that ball rolling.
Yeah, it's not so much that it takes a lot of time to get the contractor to demobilize. We just keep getting more information about residents that want K-rail moved or removed, and we want to make sure we don't leave anybody behind. If there's somebody that wants us to assist them with changing the location of the K-rail, we need to make sure everybody's had a chance to get their request in so we can take care of it all at once.
So, in other words, once the contractor's out there, you want to do it all at one time?
Yeah, we will basically want a clear indication from the Homeowners Association, again, after tonight, when you take action, depending on your action. If the action is to wrap up and demobilize, then we will wait until the Homeowners Association confirms that there is been contact with all the residents that have K-rail affecting their property, that everybody has been reached out to make sure that if they want to change, we can take care of it for them. When we get the green light, we will get the contractor mobilized as quickly as he can schedule it.
Excuse me, Mayor Little. I've met with Rick Knack, and that's all been agreed. The only thing was being held up was the K-rails above Mr. Elliott's home, and Mr. Fox and Rick have been informed to go ahead and place those K-rails. So it's all done, and it's already agreed upon.
Okay, well, we can scratch that off. I've got a list of things that were brought up tonight. Maybe we could just touch base, make sure we cover everyone's concerns. Obviously, one is the emergency proclamation. Mr. Lingle brought up the question of the city code and the nuisance abatement procedures and whether we wanted to talk about that. We've already talked about the city attorney's already talked about the fact that the letter permits is under review and subject to change. And then we also have the one issue which came up several times during our course of conversations is the number of drains that are coming off the freeway into. Is that something that we need to worry about, or is that their problem. I mean, I'm sure we have the access to Caltrans.
The drains from Caltrans are coming onto their property, so it is a interaction between the homeowner association or the community and Caltrans. However, because we have experience working with Caltrans, we volunteered our time if they need us to assist in any meetings with Caltrans.
Okay. And then the Corps of Engineers watershed, Ventura County Watershed District.
Yeah, I don't have a answer as far as any definitive position that they've taken. I know all the county agencies were engaged at the initial, when the emergency occurred, to see what resources they could provide, and at this point none of them have been able to identify anything to offer to us, but we can go back and ask the question again to see if there's any way through the Army Corps or other avenues that they might be able to find funding or other resources to assist, but the indication up till now has been that that just isn't available.
Okay, yes.
I'll follow up on that question just a second. Because I remember Elton's indicating about the Cayugas Creek and so on, and how they use the CBs to actually go out and help put that levee back in order, because it went over the levee, washed it out, went over the farmland, and was headed toward Point Magoo. Houses are being not abandoned, but taking people out of there because the water was coming over the farmland. That might be it might be something we can look at. If we can get the Corps of Engineers through the CBs. I think they used it as a practice. Okay, well, anyway, they had their vehicles out there. I remember the CB's vehicles were out there. And maybe we can get them to do that.
Well, I think that's something for future phase, but which we can discuss if you'd like.
Your Honor, and
yeah.
Actually I was just going to really now at this point build on what you just said. Regardless of your actions tonight, that won't stop our efforts if we find there's a lead or a way to look into other types of resources or solutions that can help, that we may not have direct control over, but we could at least engage other agencies to research and look into it. We'll continue to do that even after, whenever those type of opportunities might surface, independent of what actions you take tonight.
And I don't know whether the city attorney wants to comment on Mr. Lingel's comments about the city code.
No, I had a conversation with Mr. Lingle about that during the meeting on Monday, and that's not something that we are have made a decision on yet.
Okay. All right. City manager, do you have any comments you'd like
No,
to make?
I have no other comments.
Okay.
You know, we need to get the first thing done first, and that's the proclamation, or our proclamation of emergency proclamation. I move to adopt resolution extending the proclamation of the local emergencies in the local emergencies, period.
Second.
I have a question on that.
Yes.
Counselor. Is this going to be for another 30 days, or is this a continuation of what we did last meeting?
Well, it will continue for until you terminate it, or 30 days, whichever comes first. So the code requires that you review it every 30 days to either extend it or not. So we will most likely be bringing this back to you. I don't know, figure out the math here. Would we have to come back on May 13th? They think, because then the 27th, yeah. We'll be back in front of you on May 13th for another decision on whether to extend or not.
May 13th, okay. All right, you've made a motion. Second? You second that, didn't you? Any discussion?
I second it.
Please vote. That passes 5-0. And let's see.
Your Honor, I have a question on the next item, if I could.
Yes, sure.
Is there any reason from the NRCS perspective that we need to say we're complete and done with their specific piece of that project? Is there a time frame or?
Yes, there is a need to wrap up the paperwork, and part of that is what an action you took earlier tonight, I believe on consent, was to accept the improvements and release the contract and let them know that all the work has now been complete and accepted. And that will close out the paperwork that we have with NRCS. However, the primary reason we wanted to wrap up too is to be able to make sure that we receive the reimbursement, which actually we just have. So that, knowing that we were moving towards this action helped them to finally release the check so that we could get reimbursed.
And so if we were to complete this and somewhere down the road, if in figuring out what to do in the future, if you ever could go back to them again, having this open really is an advantage. You would start over anyway because it would be a new project or whatever.
That is
anywhere in the future.
That is correct.
So this specific project needs to be closed out on their books and on ours.
Correct.
Have we had any conversation with them about their willingness to go further in this project?
That's not their purpose. Their purpose is to immediately come in and mitigate.
I just wondered if there have been any conversations. So,
well, yeah, we let them know that we could use more money, and they said this was it. That was all we have. So
that's always the first thing you ask for.
Okay. All right. Good question.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I move to confirm that the city-sponsored NRCS project is completed at Camarillo Springs and that any further work will be the responsibility of the homeowners association.
I second that with comment from Barbara about the not until after all this stuff is done, the barriers and all that. That would be the completion of the project.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the work will be done anyway.
I'm just saying, making sure that's in there because we need to make sure that's done before you say you're through.
Okay. Is there a second? There is a second?
He seconded.
Any further discussion on that matter? Not, please vote. That passes 5-0. And is there anything else to come before us on the Camarillo Springs matter?
Better not.
Not at this point, and I'll echo what Mr. Fox said. Any of these other ideas that Mr. Gallagly mentioned and other ideas that have come up in terms of future help and resources and funding, we're here to help. We're trying to close out a phase, but we're still here to help. And there's a number of items that we're still working on, as Mr. Pierrick mentioned, with our release and going forward in the future.
So there are some, we're still working with them. Even after this is over, we're still going to be working with them a little bit.
Absolutely.
I hope so. Okay. Well, we're moving on. Thank you for coming. I'm going to move to item C, which is an update on the massage business and practitioner licensing, operational regulations, and code compliance.
I think we all could.
Okay, do we have a staff report?
We do, Mayor. I'll be presenting that tonight. Good evening, Mayor Little, council members, members of the public. You asked for a update on the city's massage regulations and the status, and I believe in your staff report we provided you everything you wanted to know about massage, but we're afraid to ask. And tonight we will ask and try to answer your questions as best we can. Before I begin, though, I want to say this has been a collaborative effort, not just our department, but I also want to thank Finance Director Campbell, whose department actually issues the massage licenses, Community Development Director Vaca and his code compliance unit, particularly DJ Sotella in that department, who's done a lot of the inspections, and Commander McGrath and Sergeant Frankie and Officer Holtzberger, who have also been assisting code compliance and doing some of the inspections, and again assisted with the preparation of a lot of the material that's in the report tonight. Your question, how are we doing? I think the answer is, on the whole, very good. Particularly if you compare the city to what you may hear, what's going on in other jurisdictions in terms of both the number of establishments, the number of problematic establishments, and other kinds of problems. We have, at the moment, 37 licensed massage establishments in the city. There are 16 standalone that only provide massage therapy. There are 15 that are licensed that are part of larger day spas that do other things like nails and hair and other things like that. And then 6 of the establishments are connected with chiropractic offices, so 37 total at the moment. I think in reviewing what's been going on in the city in recent years, it appears that our licensing scheme is functioning as it should. That a few years ago we adopted a requirement that the massage practitioners, the therapists and the practitioners have the highest standard that was possible in the state now, which is the certification by the California Massage Therapy Council. And I think with that, that's helped to ensure as high standards as that we can provide. This has been complemented, particularly in recent months, with code compliance and monitoring to make sure the establishments are doing what they should be doing. And as a result of that, we have identified a couple of problems. One has been weeded out, and the other we will monitor, and we're going to continue, the monitoring as an ongoing thing. But what's been interesting is that really we have not received any citizen complaints in recent years about operations or activities. So it was really our own initiation of the code compliance that revealed a couple of problems out there. But again, not surprising given the number that we have. In summary, we're recommending some minor code revisions to mirror some changes in the Act. But let me kind of go through a few things real briefly in the staff report before we get back there. California has something called the Massage Therapy Act, and it's almost been a full-time job for lawyers in the past 6 years because there have been 3 amendments to this legislation, each time requiring us to review, analyze, and possibly make some code amendments. What was interesting in massage is that, unlike other things where I think California views itself as a rather progressive state, in massage, we were kind of behind the ball in that we never had any kind of statewide licensing body in California. It was really left to all the local jurisdictions to come up with whatever licensing requirements and testing that they were permitted to do under state law. And so that's what resulted in all these changes in the past 6 years. It started with something called Senate Bill 731, which created this nonprofit entity called the California Massage Therapy Council to sort of become the regulatory body for massage therapy. Certainly our office had some doubts as to whether this organization would be effective in what it did at the outset, but I think I can report back after the 6 years that it's been operating. They've come a long way in terms of how they operate, their transparency, and certainly it is useful for the city to not be in the position to have to administer licensing tests and to do those things. Cities really aren't equipped to do it, and it makes sense to have some kind of statewide body. If it's not going to be a state agency, then something like this is certainly suitable, and I think they've been collaborative and generally, have done a good job at what they're doing in terms of the licensing side and setting standards. One of the odd twists in this saga was that the legislature then, after 731, did something called AB 619, and this was really an odd piece of legislation that took away local land use police powers. It was kind of a reaction against perhaps over-aggressive regulations by local entities, and it created a requirement that basically prevented us from exercising police powers directed at massage establishments that were different than other professional services. So we couldn't do something to a massage establishment that we weren't doing to doctors or dentists or beauty salons. So that really made it tough for cities to set up things like separational requirements or different kinds of things. But the law did allow us to do business licensing, and we took full advantage of that requirement by coming up with a very rigorous business licensing scheme that's really worked for us. And essentially that is our code Chapter 5.16 of our municipal code. And just quick summary of what that does, we do require that all massage practitioners have the state certification. They have to keep that list on the property so that when we go in to inspect, we know who has, who should be there, who has a license. They have to update that list with us when they change personnel. And we also adopted, as part of the licensing, a number of operational requirements, which we were allowed at the time and still are allowed to do under state law in terms of how they operate, requiring them to keep a register of employees. So again, we know that the right people are on the property. We have hygiene and dress standards. We require them to keep records of treatments. We even have a provision that basically is an anti-prostitution provision that says you can't perform or solicit improper services. And the reason we have that in there is because in this area, and I've worked with a number of jurisdictions, you can arrest people for prostitution, but the problem is district attorneys' offices don't like to prosecute these cases. They have bigger fish to fry, so to speak, and things on their plate, and these things don't get the same kind of attention. So you have to rely on your code to do things if you want to terminate or to aggressively enforce things. And in fact, we have done that, and as part of our code compliance efforts, where we did discover one establishment where there were unlicensed or uncertified personnel working, we issued citations on the spot, and because of the serious nature of it, we actually revoked their business license, which we could do administratively. They didn't appeal it because they knew that they were caught red-handed, and that business has since closed. That process from start to finish took only a few weeks. So we were able to do it quickly. We were able to do it cost effectively. We didn't have to go to court. We didn't have to rely on the district attorney or anything. We were able to do that between the efforts of our police department, code compliance, and our finance department that does the licensing to just shut it down, and it worked. The other establishment that we identified some problems with, we didn't think that they were serious enough to warrant the revocation, but we sent them a notice that you have to correct these problems, and if it happens again, we could have grounds for revoking the license, and we will continue to monitor it. As I've indicated and summarized in the report, we've done code compliance from about a third of our establishments. We had significant problems with 2. Other ones were mostly minor, although I think it was interesting and somewhat disappointing to note the number of establishments that didn't have proper workers' compensation insurance. That was one of the key violations found, one of the smaller ones, not directly related to our concerns about prostitution or other things, but that was certainly a recurrent theme in a number of places. As I said, there have been few to no public complaints about our existing establishments. In terms of the numbers, it's difficult to say whether 37 in a city of over 60,000 people and adding 10 to 15,000 employees or more every day coming into the city too, is that too much? That's more of a decision, but again, we haven't had significant complaints. They're not overly concentrated, although they do tend to be in the what I call the quadrant around Pickwick, Arneal, Mobile, and Old Town. But also, if you think about it, those are the kind of retail centers where you can find a small space to do this kind of thing. You're not going to locate at the outlets or other parts of town. So if you're going to be somewhere, you're kind of going to end up in that area there. But we don't see that is a significant over-concentration. And in terms of hours, all of the establishments close by either 9 or 10 at the latest. So we don't have any all-night establishments, and these hours appear to be generally consistent with other uses in the centers that can be open to those hours as well. So in summary, we think our licensing program is working as it should. We believe we should maintain continued monitoring and enforcement randomly of different places just to make sure that everybody's doing what they should. And when we discover things, I think we have the tools that we need now administratively to revoke licenses, to issue citations, and to deal with the problems. And in terms of any changes we need to make to the code, we feel at the moment they're pretty much limited to some changes in terminology because the Massage Therapy Act came up with some different words that we're using in our code. So we really just need to do a little bit of cleanup legislation. But we're certainly open if there are other concerns that the council would like to talk about tonight to discuss those. We kind of laid out a few of the things that we had heard about the hours of operation, the overconcentration issue, and maybe CUPs. And with that, I will entertain questions.
Thank you, Don. Any questions of?
I have a question.
Yes, Kevin.
Yeah. Don, you mentioned, what, about 37 of these that are currently in practice in the city? Is there, in our code, I don't suppose there's any limitation to how many you can have in a city? Is there any code, or is there any, and I'm not saying we limit them, but I've been in business a long time, and 37 is a big number. So, a couple of things happening. Either it's a really, really good business, or obviously there must be a big demand for it. But in your dealings, is there any cities that you're aware of that limit the amount of them in a city?
I think the cities that have had significant overconcentrations, I mean, really super high numbers, double or triple what we have compared to the size, they're looking at things like separational requirements to kind of address the issue. That's something we've sort of looked at, but it's kind of a twin-edged sword because as you see on the map there, we kind of have limited locations for them too. So you could be weeding out, legitimate ones too. We just didn't feel that it was shop after shop after shop. But certainly, if it got to that point, that is something that we could look at because it's more of just a basic land use type of thing, and cities can put. It's not typical to have numeric limits, but certainly to kind of space them out or establish areas where they're permitted or not. To reduce the number if there was, significant overconcentration. There's probably other tools that you could use too, costs and taxes and things like that if you wanted to limit the numbers. But, I think the challenge here has always been that, and that's what some of these state laws were designed to counterbalance the fact that we were often regulating because of the bad places, and we were hurting, the legitimate places. There are, people out there that it's a good business for them. It's relatively inexpensive to start up. You don't need overhead, and it provides a job for people. So those are the things we have to look at in regulating. And I think staff generally feels that because of the our ability to both identify it. Hard to find the illegitimate ones. There are a lot of ways to do that and to move in quickly to eliminate that. I don't know why other cities have had such a problem doing it. Frankly, as I said, our experience has been that we were able to close one out and get it out of town very quickly, and that's been my experience in other cities. Sometimes it takes a little bit more work. I've had to go to court and get injunctions and things like that, but it ultimately has worked, and they've gotten the message. And the illegitimate places move to other places where people aren't really monitoring or actively pursuing them. That's sort of how the game is played.
Charlotte?
Thank you.
Yes. Refresh my recollection here, because it's been a while since we passed this, but we require the licenses from places, standalone places, and places that are associated with chiropractic businesses, but not, say, with physical therapy or at the hospital or things like that?
That's correct. There are certain exemptions for, like at the hospital, for people who do massage, like associated with athletic training programs in high schools and things like that. So really places where it is the business and kind of a function or a significant component of the business.
So they have to have city business licenses for their business, but not special massage licenses?
Well, anybody doing massage who is a massage practitioner who doesn't otherwise have a license, other than, a chiropractor has the chiropractor license, so they don't need it. But if they bring in somebody special to do massage that's not a medical professional, then that person does actually need to have, or the establishment to get a license and to be providing that service.
Okay.
That's why we have the 6 chiropractic offices that have them.
I've got a few questions. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just going to comment and say that I think that at some point we should move forward with these changes that are recommended.
I've got a couple of questions. First of all, of those 37, 16 are standalone.
Correct.
The others are all associated with some profession, whether it be hair treatment and a day spa or
Yes.
chiropractic. And
Correct.
So it
Correct.
seems to me that if we're going to have problems, most likely will be in those 16 or whatever number standalone there are as opposed to the others.
That would be the assumption. That's why we started with those establishments first.
Have we
in
been
the
through the
monitoring
16?
program.
Have we been through the 16?
We've been to all but I guess 3 of them because we've done 13. So we
13's
felt
what I
pretty
see
short.
here. I circle all and says just massage. All the rest
Correct.
have hair, this, that, and the other. But 13 of them have just spa, just massage.
Well, we've done, as of this date, we've done 13 inspections, and they were all the standalone.
Mhm.
So we just fell 3 short of the
I would
16.
think that's where you need to concentrate the manpower, at least initially. I do have a problem with the time restriction, or the lack of time restriction. It seems to me that you say that they close at 9:30, 10 o'clock. That's fine. But what happens if one comes in and advertises 24 hours, 7 days a week? It seems to me we ought to have some restriction in our code that says you close at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock or whatever time the council may set. But it just seems that we're leaving ourselves open for a problem down the road without something in it.
Sure. Staff has commented on that, and we have agreed that as a service-oriented business, 10 o'clock as a closing time is consistent with other service-oriented business, such as a barber shop or a hair salon. And that is something that we could include in the code updates if that's the consensus of the council.
I think we ought to forestall any round-the-clock operations there.
What about the weekends, Bill? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Well, I think it's open 7 days a week.
Yeah, actually, a lot of them are open on the weekend.
Especially the nail and things, they do a good percentage of their business on weekends.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with them being open on weekends. It's being
Those hours?
It's just the up and down hours of the day. The other thing we talked about was concentration, and you said that they're all constant, and you have a map, and thank you for that. It's interesting to see where they've gathered. I don't have a problem with the concentration in the town. I have a problem with concentration in a shopping center. If you have 4 or 5 of them all of a sudden start clustering into a shopping center, that's going to change the nature of that shopping center, I think. And I just wondered if we should think about that as a preventive issue. I don't know how you do it. I'm just throwing it out for discussion.
I think if our research so far had showed that there was significant issues in multiple businesses, that would be of bigger concern to staff. But since our inspections have showed that there's, out of 13, only been 2 that have been to a higher level of violations. One was more egregious than the other. We don't limit barber shops, for example, in our old town, and we have several. So we don't know that it warrants that level of regulation at this time. We could always come back in the future if we recognize a problem.
Okay.
Bill, I can.
Yes.
I don't know about, the downtown areas, but I do have a little bit of experience with leases and shopping centers, and it's not uncommon to get a non-competing lease in a shopping center. In other words, if you have one certain type of business, you can request, and oftentimes they will allow this, that you will not have another similar business that will compete with you. It's fairly, from my knowledge, fairly common to have that. But in shopping centers, that's not in downtowns or You know,
Be the center's
yeah,
philosophy,
yeah,
their rules.
yeah. And I've been in 3 centers, and in those days, they did have that. I don't know if it's changed or not, but
Well, I just
that
thought I'd
helps
throw
any.
it out, and hopefully we won't ever have to deal with it, but that was one of my concerns. Other than that, I think the report's fine, and I would agree with the necessary changes. I would like to see that time limit put on so we don't end up with a round the clock. We do have someone who wishes to be heard on this. Deborah Updike.
Oh, she's got a salon, Updike's.
Hi there. Some of you may be familiar with me. I was active in getting the code the way it is now. My name is Deborah Updike, and I'd like to thank you for hearing me tonight. I'd also like to thank staff for all the attention they've given to this issue. The only real comment I have is that I'm glad that the revisions will be modest at this time, because I think that is the appropriate action. I know that the major change that happened in terms of me personally, with the changes in the code, or with the changes in the establishment law, the amendment, is that there was some talk about giving sole proprietors a little special treatment, that we would be able to not be held accountable to all of the amendment. But at this point, that was not decided to be the case for the state. So I'm just sort of asking the city if they do in the future decide to implement zoning changes or those kinds of things, that they take into account that there are people like me who operate in professional offices as professionals, as sole proprietors, and that you take that into account, that we're a little bit different and a little bit special case. So thank you very much.
Well, okay. Any questions of Ms. Updike?
Only that of the 13 that just says massage of some type, that's it. She's not one of those. That just says massage. I see it. I see it right here. It's Deborah Updike, CMT.
Right.
But the others all have a massage to it, just as flat out something massage. You use the acronyms.
Well, I do, because that's what I am. I'm certified by the state of California to practice massage.
Could I ask you, I'm not sure I understand what you're asking here. You said if you're a sole practitioner,
right,
that there'd be some changes allowed or something.
If there was ever, in the future, should the city ever decide to implement any zoning changes similar to what you had before, which is the previous codes in the city of Camarillo restricted the practice of massage and restricted massage establishments into retail areas.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And I would really encourage you not to return to that practice, or if you do decide that that is in fact the case, to allow sole proprietors to operate in professional offices. Okay? That's all I'm trying to establish tonight. And I do really appreciate all the work you've put into this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I don't have any other cards. What's a pleasure?
Could I just make a comment, Your Honor? Sure. This was a topic that VCOG took up a couple years ago and worked very hard to try to get our land use authority back. And having listened to all the other cities in the county, some of them really did have a problem and did have a very large concentration of businesses moving in. And I would like to thank our staff, our city attorney, our sheriff's department for being very proactive in making sure we didn't get to that point. A lot of it has to do with the kind of cities you have in the buildings and the shopping centers and the little strip malls that some of them have, particularly the older ones. But I think by being so proactive and really keeping on top of it, I think it really has made a difference and given those people the opportunity to make a good living, the people who do provide the service. So thank you, everybody, for working together to make Camarillo not have a problem. But we got to stay on top of it to make sure we don't. And I think that's the moral of this story.
Darla?
Yes, you are asking for direction. I think we're just giving staff some guidance on what to bring back, and I would support the changes that were suggested in the staff report, and I can also support having a time when they must close, say 10 o'clock. I think that's a fair time.
I'd support that as well.
Okay, you're making that a motion?
I'll second it if that's a motion.
Well,
whatever you need.
when they bring it, I think we're just giving them direction what to bring back, and then we'd
Okay.
have a motion.
Yeah. So we don't need a motion on that. Okay.
All right.
Very good.
Okay, is there any other comments to staff? If not, we'll
Good work.
suggest that this is, give you the suggestions you've asked for. And that brings us back to returning to the agenda, which we didn't finish at 5 o'clock session. And we have, let's see, we're down to Animal Services Agreement with the County of Ventura. Whose job is this one? Oh, okay.
Cats and dogs, no.
We've dealt with cats and dogs and everything tonight. Yes, Mr. Bouchard.
Good evening, Mayor Little and council members. This evening, I will deliver a PowerPoint presentation regarding a proposal for a new animal services agreement. Before I proceed, I would like to let you know that Director of Animal Services, Tara Diller, was present for the first part of the session. However, she did have another matter to attend to, so she had to leave. I'd like to provide you with a little bit of background on the Animal Services Agreement. The current Animal Services Agreement is more than 30 years old. Essentially, it is outdated. It includes an antiquated billing methodology that both the county and contracting cities acknowledge. The existing agreement between the city and county was approved by Camarillo City Council in 1987. Since that time, the county has enhanced its operational practices and its relationships with community organizations, rescue partners, volunteers, and the public. In 2012, the Board of Supervisors adopted a no-kill policy to stop the use of euthanasia as a method to control the pet population. In a span of 2 years, the county shelter achieved a 91.2% live release rate. Shortly after that, in May 2014, the County Animal Services notified the city that it was reorganizing its fiscal year 2015 budget structure to better reflect operating costs and to ensure sustainability of the animal shelter. In May 2015, the county selected a new billing methodology for fiscal year 2015-16, which allocates shelter costs based on total animal intake percentage. Camarillo's percentage of total animal intake at the shelter is projected to be 11.2%. Under the existing agreement, the current Animal Services Agreement includes an array of services, including enforcement of state laws with respect to vaccination and licensing of animals, after-hour field services for sick and injured animals that, if required, are transported to an emergency vet in the city of Thousand Oaks. The city is not charged for the cost of treatment. Also, for the issuance of animal license, the county is responsible for issuing these licenses to those who pay the appropriate fee. The fee is $20 for an altered, sterile pet and $75 for an unaltered pet. County provides shelter and veterinarian care and treatment of all animals that enter the animal shelter. Additionally, the agreement provides canvassing and license processing at no additional cost to the city. The current billing methodology is based on the average number of impounded dogs over the previous 2 fiscal years. Revenue from licensing and impound fees are credited against the sums payable by the city to the county. The city's projected current fiscal year cost is $498,100, which includes a cost of $389,000 for shelter and vet services and $109,000 for field services. That is for a full-time animal service officer. The city's projected revenue offset is $291,800, bringing the projected total cost for animal services to $206,300 in fiscal year 2015. And we'll get into the proposed agreement. In order for the county to achieve improved cost recovery and ensure sustainability of the animal shelter, the proposed agreement is based on each city's proportional share of shelter costs and each city's optional elective services, which includes shelter, vet services, field services, animal nuisance hearings, animal license processing, animal license canvassing, and administrative citation processing. I will provide more details of these services as I continue with my presentation. Shelter services comprise of city's animal impounds to the animal shelter and vet services. The county's animal shelter operating cost is approximately $4 million for fiscal year 2016. Camarillo's projected proportional share of the county's total animal shelter operating costs for fiscal year 2016 is projected to be $457,127, which is 11.2% of the county's operating budget, shelter operating budget, an increase in cost of about $68,127 over the current fiscal year. This increase stems from certain cities not paying their share of costs over the years. The proposed agreement also provides a safeguard against the potential cost increases if, for example, a contracting jurisdiction were to terminate its animal services agreement with the county. The county has indicated to staff that it will make every effort to reduce variable shelter operating costs to maintain shelter services and the costs at the lowest reasonable level. Excuse me. Now we'll get into field services, which is an optional elective cost. Field services provided by the county includes calls for service, licensing, permit, and other inspections, nuisance, complaints, animal evacuations due to disaster or emergency, rabies control, and other related services. The projected hourly rate for a full-time animal service officer is $52.20 for a total cost of $108,576. The current fiscal year hourly rate is $55. The reason for the decrease in the hourly rate results from a decrease in workers' compensation insurance rates. The cost for a part-time field service officer would be $54,288, which would also yield an equivalent cost reduction. Currently, an animal service officer spends several hours a day patrolling, but the number of stray animals does not justify the level of activity. Animal services staff acknowledge that the demand for the services of a full-time officer is currently lacking and suggest that the city will experience a satisfactory service level with a half-time animal service officer. If after a certain period of evaluation, city and county staff determine that more field service hours are needed, the city can revisit the issue and contract for additional hours. City staff's recommendation would be for the city council to elect to contract for 1,040 hours of field services for fiscal year 2016 at a cost of $54,288. The service also provides for, the agreement also provides animal nuisance hearing. This service provides for one hearing officer at a rate of $74.58 and an administrative assistant at a rate of $30.42. Both are animal service staff. They are there to conduct animal nuisance hearings for animal nuisance complaints In fiscal year 2014, there were 2 nuisance hearings, while in the current fiscal year, there have been 3. The city will continue to be responsible for conducting hearings regarding leash law violations. In fiscal year 2014, the city had no requests for leash law violation hearings, and there haven't been any requests in the current fiscal year. A little bit about the hearing process. Generally, the animal nuisance hearing process takes about 5 hours. The cost of the service is projected to be $1,050 for 2 hearings. The prep work takes about 30 minutes. The hearings are about 2 hours. Dictation and order findings, 2.5 hours. And the projected cost, as I indicated, was $1,050 for 2 hearings. City staff recommends the City Council elect to contract for animal nuisance hearing service at this rate of $1,050, and that is for a projected 2 hearings in fiscal year 2016. Animal license processing. City may request the county to process animal licenses at the annual fiscal year cost of $3 per license. The county projects the cost to be $25,173 based on processing a total of 831 animal licenses. This cost is offset by $237,632 in projected annual licensing revenue. City staff recommends the City Council elect to contract for animal license processing at a cost of $3 per animal. A little bit about animal license canvassing. Canvassing is conducted by licensed ambassadors from Ventura County Animal Services. The ambassadors are responsible for going door to door on Saturdays and Sundays in the city to check that pet owners are up to date with their animal license and vaccination requirements. They verify animal licenses, sell and renew licenses, and provide dog spay-neuter vouchers worth $40 or $65, depending on weight and gender of the animal or dog, and $20 vouchers for cats to help defray the cost of pet sterilization. The hourly rate for one ambassador is $23.02. The projected cost is $13,075. The revenue from canvassing accounts for approximately 9% or $21,386 of licensing revenue. And provide you with the math there. City staff recommends the City Council elect to contract for licensed canvassing services to ensure that pet owners are current with their animal license and vaccines. Administrative citation processing. The county, at the request of the city, may provide administrative citation processing services at a cost of $5 per citation issued. Currently, administrative citations are processed by city code compliance and finance staff. City staff recommends City Council continue to have animal services issue administrative citations, and city staff continue to process these citations under the city's established procedures. The slide before you provides a financial summary of the projected costs for fiscal year 2015 and 2016. The projected cost for fiscal year 2015, here on the left-hand side, after we include offsetting revenue, is a total of $206,300, while the projected cost for fiscal year 2016, after including offsetting revenue, is $301,081. The projected cost increase over the current fiscal year totals $94,781. The agreement term provides a term of 5 years, effective July 1st, 2015 to June 30th, 2020, and it may be renewed for up to 5 successive periods of 1 each year. Staff is recommending the City Council authorize the City Manager to execute an animal services agreement with the County of Ventura Animal Services. That concludes staff's presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Just to make sure, these changes would become effective July 1st?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Could I
Yes,
just
Jan.
ask, just sum up for me, what are changes in services that we will see under this new contract versus the old?
The changes in basically what the county is doing is they're moving from an array of services that comprises the entire agreement. So now what they're doing is they're providing an a la carte menu option of services for the city to elect from.
So when we talk about the services that are provided to the city of Camarillo, what's the difference? I hear a little, one of the things that caught my attention was the patrolling would be cut down. What else is there that changes in the service that we'll get? So forget the details of the contract, but think about the services that we're getting.
The only thing that staff is recommending at this point is to reduce the field services hours in half.
Okay.
And the reason that staff is recommending that is that staff had a long conversation with county animal services staff, and they actually, brought that forward and indicated that, it would be in our best interest at this time to reduce our hours. There isn't that much patrolling that is necessary, but if, in the future there is a necessity to increase, then we could do that.
We could do it, okay. So that was the one major change in the service that's going to be provided. The biggest part is the way the agreement's laid out and the cost, and they are looking to recover more of their costs that they're our share. Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? We're reducing our patrol services. We apparently are going to continue to have basically the same level of shelter and other services. But yeah, we're going to pay $100,000 more. Why? I mean, I just don't, it doesn't, the revenue is down, the costs are up.
There's a variance, and the variance is that there's the projected licensing revenue for fiscal year 2016 is about $52,000 less than the current fiscal year.
Is that because of their anticipation that they will not get as many dogs or animals licensed, or is it because they've changed the license program?
They haven't necessarily changed it, but as more people begin to spay or neuter their animals, you will see a drop in licensing revenue because the cost of a sterile animal, the licensing cost is about $55 less. So that could be a factor. Other variables come into play as well.
If I can also add, we went into this very skeptical and fighting and kicking and screaming like we typically do when we negotiate, knowing full well that we didn't want to pay any more than our fair share. And the key is the county offers a very, very cost-efficient service. Plus, they are the only service in town. But we did evaluate teaming up with Oxnard, going over the hill, the grade where Thousand Oaks goes towards L.A. and seeking other services elsewhere. And one of the primary problems is if one of our residents has their pet picked up, they have to go quite far to retain.
Gura Hills.
Right. So with that said, we wanted to make sure we could come here and represent to you that we are recommending an agreement that we're entering into our, that we agree with it and that we're partnering with the county and the other cities. One of the primary issues we found was Roger mentioned some of the cities were paying their fair share, these overly paying, and some were not paying their fair share. And we were one of those cities not paying our fair share. And let me give you one example. The contract only calls for dogs in terms of shelter and veterinary services. Well, there's lots of other critters that are dealt with the shelter. We're not charged for that. So we've been underpaying for many, many years, frankly. The county also is still subsidizing, in addition to the unincorporated area that they paid their fair share. They are still kicking in, I think, an additional $1.8 million Another really big item, and we kept comparing the library process. And this is not an anti-county exercise. This is a business exercise. We're a contract city. This does not compare to some of the issues we had and why we went on our own with the library services. The county has, and we brought this up with them, and they did say yes. When a cost savings or a revenue drop occurs with the county library model, they didn't adjust. They how do I put this simply? They had a zero sum. When a cost came in, it was allocated back to those remaining in the system. What the current county administration has promised is they will continue to look for other ways to equitably monitor the cost sharing with this over the next year, because we had some ideas as well on how to divvy up the costs, and when costs go back into the system, potentially, let's say a city reduces one of the optional services, that cost remains with the county. They can't reduce their overhead. They have promised us that they will absorb that cost and not reallocate that cost to the other cities. Those are big items that we did not have that cooperation in the past, and in particular with the library contract. So we feel pretty strong that this is a fair agreement, and that's why the costs have gone up, frankly.
Okay. That's a good explanation. Thank you. Kevin, you would like to make a comment since you're
Yeah,
our
just,
representative?
I'm not surprised as far as the licensing, because Camarillo per capita has more licensed animals per se than any other city in the county. It's typical Camarillo how, our residents take that real serious. But, with a no-kill, about 90% is actually constituted no-kill. It's really, really tough to get 100% because they have some animals that are quarantined in there that A, are not going to be able to be adopted or are in bad shape due to health reasons. But I have to say that since Tara came on, it's probably, Bruce, and Roger, if you can chime in too, my opinion, and I've been on it for quite a while, that it's run as well as it has been in my tenure, that they've got a bunny adoption programs. Tara's instituted an adopt a dog she'll go to the factory outlets during Christmas time, and there's a number of programs that she's implemented. The website has been new and improved. Roger, I think you had even mentioned that. I encourage everybody to get on the website and see what they're doing. I've adopted 2 dogs out there, and the county is going to rehab one of the buildings out there. They rehab the building that houses all the bunnies there. It's as clean as I've seen it. They had a problem with kennel cough, and they've been able to alleviate that. So I have to say, yes, it is more money, but it's really being run as well as I've seen it in my tenure out there, which I know Charlotte was out there for a number of years too. But yeah, I think that there's a lot more that they can do, and she's got some really good ideas, and I know staff works well with her. She was here earlier tonight, did I?
Yes.
I did see her
she
out
was
there
here.
tonight. Yeah, and we'll invite her back, and she'll give a report of all the programs that she's implemented here.
Mm-hmm.
And just real quickly, kudos to Tara as well as her boss Barry, and it starts at the top with their CEO Mike Powers. So it has been a good exercise.
Good.
So I just have one comment,
Yes.
Kevin, that if we're going to pay more money, then you're going to have to guarantee us that you're going to make it no-kill as close to that 100% as you can get.
Well, we're
Yeah, but there are some animals that you
That's
just
what I
have
said.
to put
Some you
down.
can't, and I realize you can't be 100.
yeah, there's some that come in so sick, and
Right, and you,
If you go visit, you'll find out there's some you're not going to get rid of.
I mean, there was a number of years where, and I think Charlotte was probably this. It was about 50-50.
I know, it was
so
terrible.
they've come a long way.
That's why I could never be the rep, because I'd take all that 50% home with me. So. And then you'd be after me for code enforcement, so,
Your Honor,
Yes.
I move to authorize the city manager to execute an animal services agreement with the county of Ventura.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? If not, please vote. Thank you. I would say on a personal note that that whole subject brought back a memory of me spending one summer being one of these license collectors looking for dogs to license. One of my first public service jobs.
You've come a long way.
I still don't have animals, I'll tell you. Okay, let's move on. Let's see, Mr. City Attorney, I think we've taken care of all your announcements.
Well, we actually do have one more closed session this evening, which I can either announce now or after your new business.
Okay, please do.
All right. This would be item B for the City Council closed session. It's a threat to public or facilities, the authorities government code section 54957A.
Okay. All right. We'll take that up after we recess to that. Okay, go to new business, oral communications. City manager, do you have anything you'd like to bring up?
Yeah, I had two quick items. The city had a business visit at Sandy Tech West, and also I sat in on the monthly Camarillo Tourism Business Improvement District. This is the hotel bid that pertains specifically to Camarillo, and they did receive their first revenue check, and they are tracking right on the money as projected. So they're excited. I told them they may not want to mention what they're receiving because there's going to be a lot of applicants, and they may find out that there's not enough funds to go around. But they are doing quite well.
Good. Okay, Mr. City Attorney.
I have no items.
Okay. I'll start. Charlotte?
Oh, I've got a whole slew of things. I attended a lot of meetings. One of them wasn't a Brown Act meeting, but it was certainly a nice one, and it was the dedication by Habitat for Humanity of the improvements that were made out at the mobile home park on Central this past year. And I think there were 13 homes. They were only planning to do 6, and they got more money, and the materials cost less, and they got more volunteer help, and they ended up with 13, and they're planning to do more this year. So that was a really nice morning. I attended the AWA Water Symposium last week in Oxnard, which was a very, very interesting morning. I had a meeting with Julia Brownlee, our Congresswoman, and we spoke for about 30 minutes about legislation, the cities, and other things, grants that the city's looking at. I attended the JLUS Joint Land Use Strategy Committee meeting on Friday afternoon. I had a really busy Friday. And we were able to make even more changes than the technical committee had made in the morning, and I think that is going to work out very well.
Where is that, Charlotte?
The joint land use, it's the
university there?
No, the Navy.
Oh, I see.
It's that study that's been going on for 3 years, 4 years?
About 3 years, yeah.
About 3 years. And we somebody there thought it was 5 years and somebody thought it was 1 year. But the key was that the woman who started it was Amanda Fagan, the person, the federal employee, was pregnant, and that baby's now almost 3. So she was pregnant when we started. So that way we knew it was 3 years. I also attended on Friday a reception that Hannah Beth Jackson had for the 4 ladies who were honored in her state Senate district as Women of the Year. And that was very, very interesting. All good women. Let's see. There was an article in the LA Times on Descanso Gardens in LA County on their low water showcase. And I looked at this and I thought, you know, a couple meetings ago we talked about perhaps doing something not at Constitution Park, but at the landscaping out here in front of City Hall, and it wraps around. And I would just say that at some point I would like for the council to discuss whether we would like to change and have a demonstration garden with water-wise type things. So I'm passing this. I'll have the city clerk, maybe she can copy that for us. I also was wondering if it's possible, and I guess this is a finance thing, if it's possible to get just numbers, not names, not details, but just numbers of how many customers we have in each water tier. I think that would be interesting for us to know. I think if most of our people are residents, especially residential customers, are down in Tier 1, but also business customers, that tells us that we've been fairly successful. If we have a lot in Tier 2 and 3, it would also give us more information as we're going forward. And I noted in the Acorn that there were two in the last week, two water-wise gardening, but with the Master Gardeners, programs at the library, and I think that was good. Unfortunately, the one's just probably wrapping up about now.
They were well attended.
Were they? Well, the one was during the council meeting tonight, so I don't know that we know how well that one was attended. But the others have been. Yeah. Anyway, keep watching because there probably will be more. The Master Gardeners are all over with their lessons and their classes on how to be water-wise in your yards. I was just wondering if we have sent, as I've been going here and there, I noticed that everybody else has, in various cities, in all of the hotels, they're again putting the little cards that say conserve water. And I was wondering if we have sent to all of the hotels in Camarillo enough cards to have one of those in every room. Does anybody know?
No, I don't know. We can check though.
Could somebody, because Metropolitan provides those cards, but last time around we had to request that they be sent to the hotel, so I think that's important. And I think that's it.
Kevin?
Yeah, just a couple of things. I attended Animal Services meeting last Thursday, and after being chair for a number of years, Steve Bennett's chair this year, and I'm vice chair. So there we go, huh? I attended a VRSD meeting as well. Also in the paper I saw, it was kind of interesting, the city of Simi Valley is looking into their fee structure, too. There's quite an extensive article about that, and I found that very interesting. On my walks, I walk a lot down Ponderosa, and I know, as everybody knows, you know, the Indians used to say you have big wind and no rain. Well, we've had a lot of wind this year, and obviously not nearly enough rain. But there was a lot of debris, a lot of pine cones and whatnot. And you don't have to do it tonight, but I was wondering if somebody could get back to me the cost of removing a tree and planting a new one. Maybe you can give that, get a cost to me back at some point on that. I did have a call, and maybe the others up here. There's something that what they call a mud run that's coming up, and I think it's in Pleasant Valley Park. I know it's in Pleasant Valley, Mission Oaks, and I did have a call of where are they getting the water for that. And I didn't know. I don't know if it's a big water user or anything. You know, everybody's everybody's, you know, water's on the tip of everybody's tongue here, and I didn't know how to answer that. So I didn't know if anybody knew or what that's about, or it's recycled water from Camarosa. Okay.
Tell them to call Camarosa and find out where they're getting it.
Yeah, so I actually have it's interesting, I had a poster in my window. And she said, well, you got a poster in the window. So, okay. I put a lot of, you have to just give me, just bring by a poster and I post it up. I don't, who knows what's in there.
Now you'll have a whole window.
But anyhow, so there we go. I got a lot of room. But yeah, so anyhow, that answers that question.
Well, you can only have a certain percentage of your windows covered with posters. There's a city ordinance about that.
I'm pretty good.
Code enforcement gets out after you.
I'm pretty good about that. I have everybody's poster except my own. Is that legal? Let's see. I think that's it, Your Honor. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Jan, would you like to?
Sure. A couple of things. Meeting-wise, Mrs. Craven talked about JLUIS. Believe the draft should be out in a month or so, and I think we'll have a presentation or a talk here at the council once you all get to see it. This afternoon, we met with the Finance and Investment Committee, met with the auditors on the pre-audit meeting, so that comes around every year, whether you like it or not, Mr. Campbell. Is he awake? Yeah.
He's smiling.
I have a couple of questions and requests. One, I would like to request that the hospital come back and give the council and out here on TV a presentation on their plans for the tower or whatever we're calling it now. I know it got through the Planning Commission phase a couple of weeks ago, but I think it would be really kind of exciting for people to see what it's going to look like, and so they've got some great pictures out there now, and I think it would be a good opportunity for all of us to catch up on what's going on, but also the public to see it. I had asked a couple of weeks ago or months ago, maybe now, regarding bingo and some new online bingo. And I think the city clerk was going to check into that. And I hope you got the information the American Legion sent in, and you'll figure out if that's on it and whatever's going to.
That is something we're reviewing. We'll get
Okay.
back to you on that.
Good, okay. Dawson Drive, I brought up a couple of weeks ago. I haven't heard back from staff as far as what's going on out there. Last time I was by, the cars were still lined up. And any report?
We are investigating that and continuing to address that through our code compliance department.
And one of the suggestions that was made is perhaps painting red curbs, close to the driveway so they can't hang over or something. So maybe when you're out there looking at it, see if that might solve some of the problem. Another question, and this is also for probably your department, Mr. Baca. I had someone ask me about the big roll-off trash containers. You're doing a home project and you need to throw away big things. So being a good citizen, they called the city to find out where that should have it placed. And this wasn't one of the big ones. This was just the small, what size? The smaller green, the big green ones, but not the big green ones. And he was told that it had to be placed in your driveway. Now, you're going to like this part because you know what I think about how important driveways are. Then the citizen said, but what happens if I don't have a driveway? Because he doesn't have a driveway. And he was told, well, I guess you got a problem. Needless to say, they did put it in the street. They got their project done without being caught or so. But is that true?
No.
No.
Not that I know of. That's a franchise agreement question with our waste.
They're all parked. They're all on the street.
I've placed those before, and I've just set it alongside the
But did you call and ask permission?
You don't have to.
You don't need to. They set it up out there.
I've been doing it for all
You
my
do have to
34
use our
years,
waste
37
hauler
years
with
out
our
there.
franchise agreement, but
Yeah, we have several. For residential, it's one, but for business, we have several.
This is a different thing.
So is there a regulation that says you can't have it in the street, or?
No.
Is there a time frame if they have it in the street for how long it can stay? Or I guess, are there any rules about putting those dumpsters in and using them?
I can look into that and report back to you.
Okay.
Well, the longer you keep it, I think the more expensive it is.
It costs you by the day and it costs you by the dump.
I'm pretty sure I've asked about this before, and I think there's a time frame that they're supposed to be out in your street or something. You can't have it out there indefinitely.
No, I don't think you can have it indefinitely. I know for sure you'd have to go with our contracted waste hauler, and there is typically a daily fee to have that bin.
Gets pretty expensive.
Right.
Yeah, and so that
If you have
kind
an
of
active
self-regulates.
building permit, it's my understanding that as long as your building project's going on, ours went on for quite a while when we added on to our
Well,
house.
this one was it didn't require a permit, something
Right,
that
it's
they're
more like
cleaning
the
out the
garage.
garage or they're, whatnot.
You'll circulate a.
But I'll look into that, yes.
Okay,
And if you could email me more particulars on that, that'd be helpful.
I'll have to find out. We'll blame it on do you have interns in there now? No?
No.
I always blame it on interns. They don't know, But anyway, I'll see if I can find out who gave him that information, because I was kind of surprised with but it was kind of appropriate, because you know how important I think driveways are. Let's see, what else do I have? I know what the water, and we're all talking about water. I would like to have a report on the court ruling that forces, and it's in Orange County, about the tiered water rates and the fact that they found those to be illegal. I would like to have a report to compare that instance to our tiered water rates and tell me what's the difference between what existed in Orange County and how ours are different, if they are, or if they aren't, if we could potentially have a problem in the future.
Okay.
And the last one that I was questioned about this last week was Institution Ale. Are they still planning on expanding in Camarillo?
Yes, we actually have a existing conditional use permit application that we're analyzing at this time, and we anticipate that going to Planning Commission on May 19th.
Great.
Wonderful.
Great.
Because the rumor was this person had heard they were going to Thousand Oaks, so that's not true, right?
That's exactly what I heard also.
I haven't heard that rumor, no.
They're moving into the old Price building, aren't they?
Yes.
And the only thing I can say is, if they're planning to go to Thousand Oaks, then they're wasting their time for the amount of time they're spending at our counter with our staff trying to get their plans done.
And maybe this was Thousand Oaks trying to spread the rumor, but okay, well, I'll pass that on that they're staying in Camarillo.
I heard the same thing. Sorry.
That is all I have tonight. Thank you.
Mike?
Yeah, I'm not going to go through the Finance Investment Committee because we did that this afternoon. Camarosa's ceremony opening the desal plant was very interesting. I mean, theirs is much smaller than what we're going to build, but it was well attended and it's going. So now we've got the first desal plant in Ventura County, brine water desal plant in Ventura County is now in operation. It's in Camarillo. I did get to say something. I also hope they could come to our grand opening of ours in 2 years. Cross my fingers. And they all like that, kind of got a laugh. EDCVC, we had a meeting. This time we had it it's going different places now. It was in Santa Paula. This time it was over at the Haas Automation. And we took a tour of Haas Automation after it was over. Well, the meeting was talking about how well we're doing as far as our getting money out to where it's supposed to go, and money's coming in. So there's a budget time. I did a business visit with our city manager to Sanitec. And you'd be surprised these high-tech things we've got in town, and this is one of those of plastic tubing, and also plastic and jarred, what do you call those things that hold liquid. And the things they do with those things, they've grown from a garage, or was it a bedroom, to a garage, to whatever. Now they're 24,000 square feet, and they want more. They're looking to have a bigger building now. They're growing so fast. Everything has to be so sanitary. Because if people order it from other countries or other areas, they have to come check on the sanitation you're providing to manufacture those tubings. Because those could be things that are in laboratories or all kinds of things. So they're growing fast. And John's going to be helping them, John Frazier, looking for another building. Went to the Docent Tea Party. That was kind of fun. On behalf of the city. Bill was busy with his wife, but that was kind of interesting. Airport Authority, we had our budget, and you heard part of that budget tonight when the lady came by and talked to us. But it was a good budget session. Habitat for Humanity, went to that Charlotte, and I made a presentation of proclamation there thanking them for all the stuff they've done for us in the city of Camarillo. And that's why we have supported them with grants over the years, because we like what they're doing. And she told you about what they've been doing there. Relay for Life. I was on that Cancer Society board for a long time, and I've been going every year but last year. Well, I went this year again and spoke on behalf of the city, thanking them. APCD, it's just normal business. We had one guy gave a presentation to, had done such a good job over the years, retiring. Cameron Ranch House Committee met here at City Hall, and you got some of that from the report you got from them today, and what Ms. Pro said. But we and the staff met to discuss the finances of the Cameron Ranch House. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Well, it's been noted, I was out of action last week because of my wife had an operation down in hospital in L.A., so I got to know East L.A. pretty well. But anyway, I thank Mike for he covered on a couple of those matters, and I appreciate that. Last evening, or yesterday, we had our Educator of the Month, a teacher. Actually, she's retiring as a teacher this year at the end of the school year at Camarillo High School. Been in teaching for 41 years.
Oh,
Great.
What was her name?
Sue Zeiler. Sue Zeiler. I don't know what she teaches. I have no idea. Also, along with the police chief, we had a graduation of the Citizens Police Academy last evening at the police department. 25 people graduated, and that program got started about 20 years ago, and it continues to do well. And that was about it. So, there is, I'm glad that you brought up, Jan, the San Juan Capistrano case, because I would hope we could get a report as to whether or not, or maybe you can give us one now if you have it.
Well, I'd prefer to look into it a little further.
That's fine.
Your Honor, perhaps I could just, I'm not going to give a report, but just a comment on that. We are in a different situation than they are, and that's good news. We are also moving forward with our next water and sewer rate study. And just as we did a few years ago, the previous rate study, we went through an explanation of how our tiered system is designed to be defendable and not get into the issues that they had in the Orange County area. We will plan to do that again, and by the time we're ready to bring that forward for you to present to you, we will have the details of the case to be able to present alongside it to show you the difference. So really, rather than just give you a report, I think it would be better in the context of the rate study to explain that to you.
I can add, Don Davis and I did have conversation on this afternoon as well. It was that direction, I believe we had received the request. So we spoke with the consultant who prepared the previous study. He was involved with the San Juan Capistrano as well and helped them to correct the problem, which isn't being reported in the media. So certainly we have a point-by-point how our adopted rate tier structure is defensible, and that can be explained at the appropriate time.
I assume they didn't have a backup study to justify what they did.
They did not.
That's okay. Oh, that's interesting. Shows you how much the media reports and how much they don't report, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. All right, anything else to come up before we adjourn to a closed session? If not, we stand recessed to that.